The drizzle, accompanied by the west coast wind, made this November day extremely cold. If Liang Yin couldn't feel the cold, he just held his umbrella and looked at the lawn in front of him, saying his final goodbye. There was no initial sadness in her eyes, but a little calmer. The lawn was turned over and over, piled with stones, and buried her partner, a dog named Victor. Counting time, he stayed with her for 13 years. The phone still didn't reply, and the most recent one in the text message dialog box still stayed yesterday. Victor is dead. One more item. Ming Zhen, Victor seems to be out of work. Ming Zhen, Zhong Ming Zhen, the head of the Zhong Group, her husband, the person she has loved for 13 years. The wind turned his hair over, and Liang Yin's eyes were blurred. She came to Zhong's house with her grandmother that year and was sitting on the sofa with the old lady of the Zhong's family. When she heard the car ringing outside, she looked up and saw Zhong Ming Zhen, who was getting off the car. He was just 20 that year, always cold, his white shirt glowing in the summer sun. The old lady of Zhong's family said that this was her grandson. She stood up and smiled politely. He glanced at her but didn't see any expression. He just nodded and went upstairs. He hurried back from school to fetch the things left at home. Inborn alienation. When I saw him again, it was 2 months later. It was her summer vacation. The people from Shen's family originally planned to pick him up, but Zhong Ming Zhen was the last one I saw. She got into the car without knowing it, and he turned his head and said, "Your aunt has entered the intensive care unit, your grandma rushed over, and I will pick you up." There is no word of nonsense. In a hurry, Grandma forgot to tell her. Grandma was at Zhong's house at that time, and the old lady of Zhong's family said, "You go first, and I will ask Ming Zhen to pick it up for you." She lowered her head as she listened, and couldn't tell what it was like. Hearing a whimper accidentally, turning around, he saw a cage on the back seat with a small milk dog lying on his stomach. She didn't know what dog it was. He said this was Bien Mu. There is no meaning to continue the topic. He took her to Zhong's house that day, and then she stayed at Zhong's house for some time. My aunt is running out of time, and as the only relative of my grandmother in the world, she has stayed with her all the time. The Shen family was gone, and the Zhong family old lady was afraid that she would be inconvenient for her alone, so she just left her at the Zhong family. She wants to go back to Shen's house and live alone, which is nothing wrong with her. But Mrs. Zhong was not relieved, but forced her to stay. Grandma and the old lady of Zhong's family are close friends in the boudoir, and they have been in friendship for a lifetime. She moved to the grandmother's house for a few months, and she has long been regarded by the old lady of Zhong as her own junior. She stayed in Zhong's house and also had an intersection with Zhong Mingzhen, but she rarely spoke and met with rare occasions. Zhong Mingzhen is an unsmiling person and very busy. He has his studies to complete, has many friends around him, and has a huge family business to inherit. She didn't care, just reviewing her homework in the morning, learning to dance in the afternoon, and staying with Mrs. Zhong for 3 meals a day, busy with her own work. From time to time, he took care of the little milk dog named Victor. Mrs. Zhong asked, "What is the name of this little dog?" Zhong Mingzhen said, "Victor." There is no hesitation, like a name that was thought up early in the morning. She checked the name, and Victor means victor, which means integrity and unchangeableness. Just like others. This little Bianmu was won by a bet with his friends. He didn't know whether he liked it or not. Sometimes I saw him teasing it, and more often it was handed over to others. She often accompanies the dog, feeds it, bathes it, takes it for walks, and allows it to develop good habits. At the beginning, it was not too much like, but based on a kind of dependence, the big Zhong family, she was the one who lived in sojourn, but after raising it, she couldn't bear it anymore. Zhong Mingzhen left home half a month early to go to school. The old lady Zhong asked him if Victor would take it with him, and he said he took it. She was a bit regretful at the time, but who knew that when she was waiting for him to leave, When she fed Victor biscuits goodbye, Zhong Mingzhen's voice suddenly came from behind, "Do you like it? Give it to you if you like it." When she turned her head, she saw Zhong Mingzhen looking at her condescendingly, his eyes faint, his expression calm and no waves. After that, she has been taking care of Victor, from her middle school, to university, to the first time in the film and television circles, to the honest op seal, to quitting the film and television circles, to marrying Zhong Mingzhen. Until now. After that, he also completely carved the originally vague mark on her heart. She liked him. From the first glance, she was hesitant at first, but she is still firm now. She seemed to see in his eyes that he saw her unwillingness, and then fulfilled her unwillingness. Then, for 13 years, waiting silently, without regrets. No one would have thought that Liang Yin, the former actress who seemed to keep a distance from everyone, would like a person in this way, purely without regard for the consequences. She was 15 years old that year, seemingly young, but she put everything in her heart. She really likes him for 13 years, never telling others, but she insists on it all the time, knowing it deeply and soberly. All the efforts are willingly, even if she waited by his side in obscurity for so many years at the beginning, even if she lay down all the glory for him when she was at the height of the limelight and lived abroad, even if she married him and no one knows except for her close friends, relatives, and friends. Today, all have no complaints or regrets. But no regrets, it ends here. The wind is constantly coming along with the damp rain, and the picture on the phone is particularly clear. On the soft big bed of the hotel, a man fell asleep sideways, his naked upper body was half covered by the fluffy quilt. Although there was only half of his profile face, Liang Yin still recognized at a glance, the man in the photo was Zhong Mingzhen, and she had traced his profile countless times in her heart. Behind the man is another woman, leaning on the man's shoulders, facing the camera, raising her eyebrows, her mouth raised, with a trace of pride and a trace of innocence. The rounded shoulders that were exposed were also not wispy. Only half of her face was revealed, but she also recognized her at a glance. Qiao Shan, Zhong Mingzhen's cinnabar mole, Zhong Mingzhen's white moonlight. She knew about Qiao Shan a long time ago. Zhong Mingzhen liked her and loved her for many years. He once asked her to marry him, but Qiao Shan never agreed. Liang Yin has seen Qiao Shan, beautiful and warm, just like a flower blooming freely. There are many suitors around her, Zhong Mingzhen is one of her favorites, but not the only one. 5 years ago, Zhong Mingzhen said that I was waiting for you at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau. When you come, we will register. Qiao Shan didn't come that day, but embarked on a plane to Antarctica with another man. Choosing one of the two, Qiao Shan made a choice. This world is like this, you like him, but he just doesn't like you. After half a year, Zhong Mingzhen married himself. Liang Yin remembered Zhong Mingzhen's appearance when he got married, but he was still faint, without sorrow and joy. But the lack of sorrow and joy is the best explanation. She knew that Zhong Mingzhen never liked her. Qiao Shan does not want to marry him, so he can marry anyone. In the past few years of marriage, she also knew that Zhong Mingzhen had never forgotten her, although he never explained or revealed, but that feeling always exists. She has never broken it. She has waited for so many years and is willing to wait any longer. As long as the result can come, she will be willing. She thought, a person's heart can always cover the heat, but in the end, she is still disappointed. After nearly 5 years of marriage, she lived abroad with him. She was always accompanied by the dog named Victor and the luxurious manor house worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And by his side, there are always scandals. She didn't take it seriously, but she felt a little bit cold, until the end, she finally felt hopeless. She doesn't know why Qiao Shan sent her such a photo, but it's over. She is willing to believe that Zhong Mingzhen will not let a woman get close, but for Qiao Shan, she has never had this confidence. And this photo was posted early in the morning yesterday. At that time, Victor finally reached the last moment of his life. As a border shepherd, it is old enough. From a small border shepherd to an old border shepherd, it finally can no longer hold on. It nestled quietly in the corner, motionless, but looked at you sadly with half-folded eyes, as if saying goodbye to you. She hadn't noticed it at first, but when she realized it, tears raged. She called Zhong Mingzhen, but he did not answer. She texted him, but he did not reply. She wanted to tell him that the border shepherd he sent her was about to die, and that the dog named Victor was leaving her. This was their dog and had witnessed them for so many years. She wants him to come back, and send it away together. But Zhong Mingzhen never heard back. So she cried and cried, her heart relieved for the last time. She knew they were together, and she wanted him to come back, that is, she knew they were together. The hand holding the umbrella was already cold. Liang Yin finally felt the cold. She lowered her head and was silent for a while, and finally typed a few more words on the phone. Zhong Mingzhen, let's get a divorce. Victor, who had been with her for 13 years, died, and now, she cherished the relationship that she had held on to. The expectation for 13 years is also over. The wind and rain were still swaying, and she raised her head and looked up. The west coast scenery remained the same, but suddenly she was homesick. The author has something to say. Winter is coming soon, write something warm. The VIP room was very quiet. Liang Yin flipped through the magazine and drank half of the water in his glass. Raising her wrist and looking at the time, at 7:30, she came a little early. Outside the VIP room, passengers with luggage passing by from time to time, can still vaguely hear the prompts from the broadcast. Her plane was 8:45. In 14 hours, she should have already set foot on the land of the motherland. Leaving the place where she lived for 5 years, Liang Yin did not give up, although she already knew that she would not come back again. Yesterday, when she wanted to go back to China, she booked a flight ticket and packed her luggage in the afternoon. What to bring and what not to bring, seems to be clear in my heart. Yesterday's text message still did not reply, but her heart was very calm. She has never been arrogant or procrastinated. She has been in love with Zhong Mingzhen for 13 years, and now she has decided not to love, then she really does not love. She said, just do it. She didn't even want to think about why Zhong Mingzhen didn't reply to her news. At the door, 2 more people walked in. Zhou Jianchen walked ahead and sat down when he found a place by the window. Then the assistant A Zhao quickly dissuaded him, Brother Chen, it's too conspicuous. He looked at the position on the side against the wall, and whispered, let's sit there anyway. It was leaning against the wall, carrying the person on his back, and obliquely. There is still a pillar, no one can see it. Zhou Jianchen frowned, but in the end he strode there and sat down. His legs are very long, and when he sits on the sofa, he seems to have nowhere to put it. Leaning directly on the side of the armrest, with a flick of his hand, he threw the valuable sunglasses on the table. His face was so beautiful that he couldn't spot any blemishes, his contours were sharp, his nose was stiff, but he was obviously in a bad mood at the moment, frowning, and his pressed eyes were filled with impatience. Originally, I only wanted to find a place where few people knew him, quietly, but there were people around me everywhere. Are you Zhou Jianchen? Are you really Zhou Jianchen? Oh my god, I saw Zhou Jianchen alive. Then, can you sign me? Can you take a photo with me? Can you give me a hug? It's not different from China. At that time, he thought about returning to China, but yesterday, after answering a phone call, he immediately asked his assistant to book the flight ticket for returning to China. It was less than 7 days before he came here from abroad, and the jet lag hadn't completely reversed. On the phone, the agent Xiao's sister said, what's the matter with you and Su Lily? Are you ready to make it public? If you make it public, please let me know in advance. He didn't know what was going on, so Sister Xiao almost roared, watch Weibo for yourself. Assistant A Zhao had already asked the waiter for 2 glasses of water. After putting away the sunglasses on the table, he sat down and glanced at his boss. He couldn't help but comforted and said, "Brother Chen, don't be angry. It's a good thing to tell you that you are red." He had been with Zhou Jianchen for only half a year, and he still didn't understand many things. Seeing him at this moment was upset. "I just thought it was because the journey was interrupted everywhere. Not to mention the previous, I said that I had breakfast this morning. I was recognized by the old aunt at the table next door and forced a handshake and hug for a group photo." At that time, Brother Chen responded with a smile, but as soon as the old aunt left, he instantly pushed the plate away, regardless of the movement of the things on the plate. In fact, he also understands Brother Chen. No one wants his life to be disturbed all the time, but who makes him so famous? Zhou Jianchen was thinking about his own business. Hearing what his little assistant said, he couldn't help but glanced up at him, and then he replied, "Why don't you say that nowadays, when the country is developed, the people will be full if they have money? Has the world turned around?" A Zhao looked at him in a daze, then lowered his head and dared not speak any more. He knew he had said the wrong thing, but he didn't know where he was wrong. Isn't Brother Chen popular? So far, he is still the most popular male star in the entertainment industry. Last week's traffic survey showed that the current traffic niche was several blocks away. Zhou Jianchen ignored him, only opened the screen of the phone and looked down coldly. Su Lily did not act as a demon again, and the latest Weibo still stayed at the one posted at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. It was just a dozen hours, and hundreds of thousands of comments have been posted and more than 200,000 have been reposted. There are 3 words on Weibo, me and him. There is a picture underneath, one big and one small holding 2 hands. You can't see your face, only the reflection of the 2 sitting next to each other. The background is a green area, and it is hard to see where it is. Zhou Jianchen glanced at it and returned to his Weibo. There were countless and there were tens of thousands of more comments on the latest Weibo. My Weibo was posted half a year ago to promote the company's activities. I didn't do it myself and threw it directly to Sister Xiao. He used to like to post on Weibo, but now he doesn't bother to take care of it. At that time, there were more than 30,000 comments after posting, but now there are 180,000. Poken and took a look, still seeking the truth in a wailing. If Su Lily's Weibo was just a simple public relationship, it would not have caused such an uproar. But now that he is involved, it is very different. Although there is only one picture of the face that cannot be seen clearly, it may capture too many details. The exposed half of the clothes, the exposed half of the watch, the hand that was enough to endorse any handy item, was enough to let those glaring detectives pick out who it was. Zhou Jianchen and Su Lily's public love affair proved to be Zhou Jianchen. How amazing! However, there is nothing wrong with it. Zhou Jianchen watched the video and photos of him on the same stage with Su Lily being turned out and analyzed, and finally came to the conclusion that Lang Yuqing was a concubine intentionally, and his heart was really as disgusting as Ji Xiang. The person in the photo is indeed him, but he doesn't even know how it was taken. I know the location. This spring, on a sunny weekend, I made an appointment with a few friends to play golf. Su Lily was also there. But at that time, the 2 of them just had a simple conversation and didn't take a photo at all, let alone a photo of sitting together and holding hands. As for why there was this photo, he caught a cold that day and was a little tired from playing golf. He sat and slept while the sun was good. If this photo really exists, the only possibility is that Su Lily took this opportunity to sneak a photo. He had woke up at the time, vaguely feeling that his hand had been touched, and when he opened his eyes he saw Su Lily sitting next to him picking up a cup, and said that he accidentally dropped it. At that time, he fell asleep when he answered, and he didn't even think that she would be there. He really underestimated Su Lily. Su Lily, a popular little flower and a favorite of stars, has just won the award for the most promising actress. I have worked with him and been fired for scandals. It was the end of last year. The two had just worked together on a spy film. At that time, he was the first male and she was the second female. This drama brought his career to a peak, and she also got the chance with this female second. Won the Best Female Supporting Award. At that time, Sean Guang decided to push her, and the eldest brother let them scrutinize the scandal. The time limit was 1 year. In recent years, he has too many rumored girlfriends, so much traffic, everyone is willing to come over and get a little bit, so when the eldest brother came to mention it, he didn't care and agreed. Anyway, there are 2 sentences in the draft, and there will be no substantial cooperation. This kind of favor is given. It's just that he thought it was just a simple speculation, no one would take it seriously, who knew that Su Lily would actually enter the scene in the end. On a certain evening of celebration banquet, she deliberately asked herself to confess. The hype is okay, but I really respected Buman, but he refused at that time. The usual way of refusal, I'm sorry, we are just business cooperation. He thought it would be over, who knows how long it took before she became such a big monster. This is prepared. But what is this for? Scramble traffic? Still want to force him to make the fake come true? But she didn't want to think about making things so big, wouldn't she be afraid of backlash? He really resisted the urge to go up and attack her. Sister Xiao said, Su Lily disappeared after posting her Weibo. No one could find it, and no one knew what she was thinking. It is not advisable to act rashly now, and watch everything change. Zhou Jianchen really suppressed his anger, and he hadn't been calculated for so many years, but it was the first one to calculate this way. What happened to those who calculated him? Which is better? Has he become so kind in the past 2 years that everyone wants to take a bite? Su Lily wants him to do fake dramas? Is she worthy? Brother Chen, who do you think is that? Zhou saw that Chen was in the midst of the weather, and Ah Zhao suddenly spoke in a low voice. Zhou Jianquan's thoughts were interrupted, and he subconsciously looked at him, but at the end of the look, he was stunned. The VIP room was bright and spacious. 6 or 7 people were sitting on the sofas everywhere. In the corner diagonally across, a woman was sitting alone, facing them, quietly reading a book. She wore a black simple coat, a wide-brimmed top hat, and her long hair was like seaweed. The top hat covers half of his face, but from this angle, the profile of the exposed face is undoubtedly Liang Yin. In the entertainment circle, Liang Yin was once recognized as the most beautiful side face. What's more, there is that distinctive temperament all over the body. But he didn't expect that he would meet her here. Zhou Jianquan's eyes became deep, and it was the first time he saw her 5 years ago. In the legend, Liang Yinghao disappeared. The author has something to say. Thank you for your message, I will try my best to update it, I hope you like it. A Zhao also lowered his voice, with a face full of disbelief, that's Liang Yin and Liang Ying Empress, right? Why is she here? He naturally recognized Liang Yin. He had deliberately learned about Liang Yin. As Zhou Jianquan's assistant, there were certain things that he had to master, and Liang Yinghao was an unavoidable one. It is said that Liang Yinghao is the only actress who has publicly liked Chen Ji in so many years, publicly likes instead of publicly appreciating for so many years. Chen appreciates and respects over a dozen female stars. This is the only one who likes. Moreover, Brother Chen chased Liang Yinghao for a long time. However, Liang Yinghao did not agree from the beginning to the end. At the beginning, Ah Zhao was a little bit unbelieving when he heard senior colleagues talk about this gossip. Chen Ji was so proud, how could he take the initiative to chase people, and he is so good, how could he take the initiative to chase everyone and still not agree? When I got to the bottom of it, I realized that this matter was really groundless. That was 5 or 6 years ago. At that time, Brother Chen had already become red to purple, and had already won several awards such as Actor, Best Actor, and so on. One day, he suddenly posted on his personal Weibo a photo of him and an actress immediately caused an uproar. Chen Ji has worked with many actresses and has countless scandals, but he hasn't paid any attention to any of them, let alone post pictures with others on Weibo. At that time, he was still keen on Weibo and posted countless blogs every day. In that photo, the actress smiled reservedly, while brother Chen beside her smiled extremely happily. Attached text: take a photo with the goddess. I like her drama very much. This Weibo was quickly deleted, but many people took screenshots and discussed it widely, and the actress in it was also recognized. It was Liang Yin, the actress who had just been sealed. At that time, Liang Yinghao was 21 years old and had made 2 films, but she was Loki, and the films were all literary and artistic films. Therefore, although she was closed overseas, not many people knew her. The reason for the deletion of Weibo has become a mystery. It was claimed that Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao would be participating in a movie together. Because of confidentiality matters, Weibo was deleted. Brother Chen did not respond to this matter. As for the other person involved, Liang Yinghao did not open a Weibo, and never participated in any interviews, so he did not know what was going on. The matter seemed to have settled with the official explanation, but it was eventually recorded by some people. When another photo was released a year later, the matter was brought up again. That was a public welfare awards ceremony. Liang Yinghao attended such an occasion for the first time. It was a coincidence that the organizer arranged Chen Ji's seat on the left side of her. Then in the photo, Liang Ying, who was wearing a white skirt, sat and watched the performance on stage and clapped. Chen Ji in a black suit on the left also clapped, but his head was sideways and looking to the right. His eyes fell on Liang Yinghao's face, with a smile at the corner of his mouth, his eyes gleaming like stars and tenderness. As soon as the photo came out, everyone saw the clue. Zhou Jianchen has always been like a young master in the entertainment industry. When has he seen someone with such eyes? This has never happened before in his movies and TV series. So everyone was speculating about what was between Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao. Reminiscent of the photo last year, it seems to be more illustrative. Because it was already in theaters, but the two were only acting together, and there was no rivalry. And it is said that there was someone between the two in that photo, and the arrangement was for the Shadow Queen Rong Xin, but I don't know why, Rong Yinghao finally sat next to Zhou Jianchen. Some people speculate that Zhou Jianchen greeted him in advance, and the beauty of adulthood would be after the image. Everyone in the entertainment industry knows that Rong Yinghao and Chen Ji have always been very close to each other. Those with the intention began to look for clues. Liang Yinghao kept a low profile to the dust, naturally unable to start, so he could only focus on Zhou Jianchen. Sure enough, I finally found a clue on Chen Ji's Weibo. As early as more than a year ago, when the two had never cooperated, in fact Liang Yinghao had frequently appeared on Chen Ji's Weibo. The Weibo reposted by Brother Chen and the movies that he helped to promote seemed to be talking about other people talking about other things, but in the final analysis, they all have the shadow of Liang Yinghao, just like the posters promoted by others on Weibo. So many photos, he only chose the one with Liang Yinghao. During their joint participation in the movie, the Weibo he posted reached a peak. The pictures with the words on it seemed to be ordinary, and when I looked at it carefully, they all had deep meaning. At the same time, someone began to break the news that Zhou Jianchen frequently visited the crew, but Liang Yinghao was often present when he visited the crew, and there were people who witnessed Zhou Jianchen driving Liang Yin to the hotel in person. Rumors are disturbing, and no one knows whether it is true or false. The doubters have it, the confirmers have it, and so on. Until one day, Chen Ji participated in an interview. The reporter asked, "Mr. Zhou, do you have any favorite actresses?" Brother Chen smiled and replied, "Yes, Liang Yin." His answer was generous, and he stunned everyone. However, the woman remained silent. It was not until 3 days later that Liang Yinghao was finally blocked by reporters at the door of the film conference. The reporter asked, "Ms. Liang, do you have anything to say about Zhou Jianquan's confession to you?" Liang Yinghao was silent for a few seconds and replied, "He is a very good actor." "Very good actor, nothing more." Come and go, question and answer, it seems that all the answers are revealed, but it is different from everyone's guess. This relationship seems to be Zhou Jianquan's wishful thinking. Everything only started with his unrequited love and ended with Liang Yinghao's refusal. Afterwards, Brother Chen's public relations team came off the scene for the first time. They did not deny or slander. On the contrary, they even more admitted that Brother Chen liked Liang Yinghao. They claimed that Zhou Jianchen was a fan of Liang Yinghao and loved her performance. And appreciate. They are also very sorry for the trouble caused this time. Besides, they also hope that there will be more cooperation in the future. The speeches will end in the fans' liking for idols. The public relations team is so conclusive, Zhou Jianchen is used to Meng Lang, so everything has a new explanation. And under the delusion of time, everyone seems to believe this statement. After all, Liang Yin had already become familiar with the third film at that time, and her acting skills were indeed extraordinary. After all, she hadn't heard of it for so many years. After Zhou Jianchen took the initiative to chase someone. It's just that some people still complain about Liang Yin's answer. Even if everything is a misunderstanding, you shouldn't refuse so mercilessly. Chen Ji is more than enough to match her. Liang Yinghao is like this, but she pretends to be innocent. Apart from those obsessed fans of Brother Chen who have this idea, it is naturally the group of people around him. All the insiders don't quite understand why Liang Yin rejected Chen's pursuit, and he didn't even give a chance. Looking through her resume, at the age of 17, great director Chen Huen accidentally took part in the first film. After the film, the 20-year-old woman who served as the director of Chen's other play was also sealed, and the 22-year-old participated in the third film and began to become popular in China. Although she was lucky enough, it was far from the glory of Chen Ji. Compare. Chen Ji participated in the first movie at the age of 15, and won numerous awards, large and small, and his fan appeal and commercial value are the number one in the entertainment industry. Many young girls pounced on him, but when they came to Liang Yin, they just became a sentence. He is a very good actor, so Liang Yinghao just became a lunatic. Simply, Liang Yinghao stopped the movie 5 years ago, and then there was no news of his whereabouts. It is said that there was a car accident that disfigured his face. When Ah Zhao heard that she was in a car accident and her face was disfigured, he regretted it for a while. Although he had never seen Liang Yin before, he knew her well in the process of getting to know her. After the resistance, he actually liked her quite a bit. He has watched her movies, the acting is really good, and the people are really beautiful, unconventional and distinctive beauty. He just didn't expect that he would see her here. In the past 5 years, Liang Yinghao has completely disappeared from the public's sight. There is no news. It is said that many people on the internet have inquired about her whereabouts, but no one knew it. As a result, she unexpectedly appeared here. And it seemed that she was not disfigured in a car accident like the legend said. So what did she do in the past 5 years? Why did you retire? Well, Brother Chen, she seems to be alone. After confirming one thing, A Zhao frowned again. This VIP room is only open to first-class customers of the airline. He came in with Brother Chen. Brother Chen wanted to book him a first-class ticket at first, but there are only 6 first-class seats for this flight. Unfortunately, there was only one left when I ordered it. However, Liang Yinghao is obviously only one person. She sits on a solo sofa and there is only a cup on the table. If she is accompanied by an assistant, she wouldn't be sitting here. Thinking of something, he couldn't help but said, I don't know where she is going. If it is photographed, I don't know what she will be written. His eyes still fell on Liang Yin, and he couldn't bear it. Zhou Jianchen retracted his gaze, smiling but not smiling. You still care about her? A Zhao heard something wrong in his voice, and turned around quickly. Zhou Jianchen looked bad, and quickly explained, Brother Chen, I just remembered a post I saw some time ago. Seeing Chen's eyebrows raised by Zhou, A Zhao hurriedly took out his mobile phone and found out the original push. Zhou Jianchen took a look, his expression unchanged, his eyes settled. Although Liang Yin has disappeared over the years, there are still some fans. In some forums, fans miss her from time to time. Some people even took screenshots of her movies, frame by frame, all picturesque. It has to be said that in the past 2 years, demons and monsters have prevailed in the entertainment industry, and Liang Yin has beaten them both in terms of appearance and acting skills. However, people are always unwilling to compare. If there are more people who favor it, there will be more enemies. No one wants to always have such a character on their idol heads, so as a counterattack, posts come into being. A few days ago, such a post also appeared in the eyes of everyone. August 18. Those outdated female stars. Renewal in the entertainment industry has always been fast, so what happened once it was popular, and it's still overwhelmed in a blink of an eye. The female stars of August 18 who used to be popular and now flop. The post was overwhelmingly praised and secretive, almost mocking the face. And Liang Yin, the actress, is impressively listed. After Qiying, they gave her a new label. There are even many followers who questioned her acting skills, thinking that her acting skills are inferior, and she simply can't afford the honor of being a queen. When A Zhao saw it, he was very angry. Stars in the entertainment circle were most afraid of the word excessive. Once it was posted, he could smell moldy. But he couldn't refute it. The entertainment industry is cruel. Big and small stars always spring up one after another. A female celebrity disappears for 5 years and then returns. There really isn't much chance of turning over. What's more, Liang Yinghao was disfigured. Those fans wanted to speak for her, so they were pushed back by the sentence you let her try to come back. So he just thought, Liang Yinghao might have recovered from the wound on her face, or maybe she was just blocked on the other side. But no matter what, she just appeared in the eyes of everyone. Once discovered by those media, she is not sure what she will be written about. The entertainment circle also talks about ostentation, popular figures support. Liang Yinghao is like this, being alone, falling in the eyes of the caring person, will really answer the words of excessive anger. Zhou Jianchen quickly scanned the entire post and handed the phone back. A Zhao still trembled. Chen Ji's eyes were cold, there was no sadness or joy on his face, he was not sure what he meant. He is Brother Chen's assistant. Liang Yinghao rejected Brother Chen at the beginning. He should have been on his side. Now that he eats inside and out, I don't know what he thinks of him. Brother Chen! He tentatively yelled. You go out! Zhou Jianchen interrupted him not to let him go on. A Zhao was even more flustered. Zhou Jianchen raised his head and glanced at him, his expression relaxed. Go out. Oh. A Zhao didn't dare to say any more, he responded, and walked out again with his things. As soon as A Zhao left, the side became quiet again. Zhou Jianchen took a sip from the cup, his eyes deep. The cup is a glass, and the water is boiled. It couldn't be simpler. In the distance, Liang Yin didn't notice the movement here, but still just quietly looked at her book. Zhou Jianchen watched for a while, put the cup down again, took a picture of the cup with his mobile phone, and posted it on Weibo again. There is only one word for attachment hat. The author has something to say, good morning going out, come back and give out red envelopes. When did he start drinking plain water? In the crew, the director told people that Liang Yin didn't drink any drinks, only water. He raised his head and saw that Liang Yin was sitting not far away, holding a cup and drinking. Somehow, he remembered what the director said and what she was like at the time. From then on, he also seemed to have a habit of not drinking anything else, just drinking water. After meeting Liang Yin several times, she really just drank water instead of other things. I remember that there was a dinner at the same table. Someone asked, "Ms. Liang, what are you drinking?" She said, "Just give me a glass of water." When I asked him about this, he smiled at her, replied, and gave me a glass of water. At that time, Liang Yin was sitting right across from him. He has developed this habit since then, unknowingly, until now. The VIP room was quiet, and Zhou Jianchen looked at the glass in front of him, with a hint of mockery at the corner of his mouth. The phone was turned off after sending Weibo. No matter how many waves a stone might cause, Liang Yin was still sitting there, her glass of water still at the table. 5 years have disappeared for 5 years. Ah Zhao thought she had a car accident when she retired 5 years ago, but he knew that it was not at all. She retired only because she married someone. During that time, he was worried. The news came that Liang Yin had a car accident, but his whereabouts were unknown afterwards, and no one knew what was going on. He sent someone to inquire, but he still couldn't find out what happened. The news of the car accident was true, but what happened after that, no matter how well informed the paparazzi was. Liang Yinghao just seems to have evaporated, leaving only a series of shocking but untestable rumors such as car accidents, disfigurement, car accidents, and deaths. Zhou Jianchen has never taken a liking to a person. If he likes it, he likes it. Even if he is turned down, it is only her business, so he wants to know her whereabouts and whether she is good or bad. But tossing around for a long time, there is still no news. It wasn't until half a year later that I finally got a message that Liang Yin was fine, she was just going to marry, and she was married to a wealthy family. After that, there were rumors on the internet that the actress Liang Yin was injured in a car accident and needed to recuperate. Who sent the message? Naturally the person next to Liang Yinghao. Oh, how ridiculous! The front foot is married into a wealthy family, and the back foot sends out the news of the injury. How shameful is this? Liang Yin started making his first movie at the age of 17, and disappeared at the age of 23. He never heard of any scandals about her, never heard of any boyfriends, and never heard of her involvement with rich people, but she was married so abruptly. Zhou Jianchen has always been arrogant, not unreasonable. He has liked her for so long, and has never heard her say "I'm sorry, I already have someone I like," but when she says such a sentence, what will he do? She may like it so ostentatiously that she likes it to the point that everyone knows it. Master, I feel bitter, Master, I won't say in the end, he can only end his relationship with such a Weibo. After that, she never showed up for 5 years. No one knew that she was married to a wealthy family, and still only thought that she was isolated from the world because she was recuperating. Someone inquires about her news and cares about her current situation? So what? She has no response anymore. But what is she doing here again now? Alone? This is really inconsistent with her rich wife status. Thinking of the arguments in the post just now, there was another sneer at the corner of his mouth. But where is she going? Go home? Thinking of this possibility, Zhou Jianchen stopped turning his mobile phone's hand. He raised his head and glanced at Liang Yin in the distance. Liang Yin was raising his wrist to check the time. Zhou Jianchen followed down and glanced at his watch, 8:08. With a sudden movement of heart, the expression in his eyes became obscure. After a long while, he took a sip of the water on the table, then picked up the mobile phone luggage and boarding pass on the table and got up and walked out. He is tall, dressed in a black overcoat, and walks far away, handsomely. After waiting for 2 minutes at the ticket gate, the first one got on the plane. Zhou Jianchen took off his sunglasses and sat in his resting cabin without closing the door. The first-class cabin of the flight is luxurious, with 3 rest cabins on the left and right, and facilities such as toilets, showers, and bar counters. His cabin is on the left side of the entrance. The voice of a flight attendant came from behind, and another first-class customer was brought in, a foreign man, and went straight to the front position. Zhou Jianchen looked at the magazine in his hand as if he was fully absorbed. Then, another passenger was brought in, still a foreign man. Zhou Jianchen turned a page and continued watching. Soon, another voice came. It was a female voice, making a brief communication with the stewardess. Hearing this familiar and unfamiliar voice, Zhou Jianchen's gaze was suddenly red, and there was an imperceptible smile on his lips. Really? He just wanted to know if she had returned to China or if she was on the same shift as him. As a result, it was a coincidence. Her voice is tactful and clear, and she used to have a special flavor when she said her lines, which is unforgettable. He also knows that she can speak English. He has searched the acceptance speech she said when she won awards abroad. There is no accent, and she is fluent and standard. Liang Yin was taken to her cabin soon. Actually, it was not the first time she took this flight. Everything was familiar to her. When the flight attendant left after the service, she thanked her, but when she turned her head back, she unintentionally saw the person sitting next to her. Zhou Jianchen was still looking at the magazine, but at the moment she saw it, he also looked up, then smiled slightly. What a coincidence! There was a smile on his mouth, but there was no warmth in his eyes, and there was no warmth and surprise of a long-lost reunion in his tone, just with some sarcasm and alienation. It was like a chance encounter, but in fact it was just waiting for a long time. Liang Yin was a little startled, and soon realized that Zhou Jianchen had only seen himself before. Where? Airport access? Maybe in the lounge. With the answer in her heart, she didn't care, just smiled lightly at Zhou Jianchen. What a coincidence! After speaking, she bowed her head and closed the hatch. She did not respond to his ridicule and alienation, as if she hadn't noticed it at all. Zhou Jianchen watched her close the hatch, a little surprised. He brewed a narrow encounter, but she was just indifferent. It was like he slammed a punch with the strength he had accumulated for 5 years, only to fail. He felt ridiculous, ridiculous that he used the strength he had accumulated for 5 years to throw a punch and only failed. But no matter how ridiculous, she really shut him out. Zhou Jianchen wanted to beat the wall, but in the end he just smashed off the table severely. The magazine was thrown aside, and my mind was still uncomfortable, but somehow, the more I thought about it, the calmer my mind became. It was like I was extremely angry, but everything was empty. Only what Liang Yin looked like was left in his mind. After 5 years of absence, her temperament has changed. She used to be a cold person, quiet but vigorous, but now she is still cold, but calmer. She looked haggard. After being so far away, and so close just now, he finally saw everything about her clearly. Her face has not changed much, with light makeup, no scars, except for the obvious bruises at the corners of her eyes. The smile just now was also faint, although she always looked like this, but this time, she was obviously tired. What's wrong with her? Zhou Jianchen couldn't stop thinking. He turned his eyes sharply, and his eyes flashed for another moment. How is she? What is up to you? Liang Yin closed the hatch and finally isolated everything again. She naturally remembered Zhou Jianchen. That year, he seemed to chase after herself. It was on the set of Spring Light, her third film, she and Zhou Jianchen co-starred. On the day of the opening ceremony, she was sitting on the side and resting. He walked over and said, "Hello, this is Zhou Jianchen, I like your movie very much, and I am glad we can cooperate." Then he said, "I want to take a photo with you, can I?" She was a little surprised. They only acted together in that movie, and there was no rivalry. She also did not refuse his request for a group photo, although she felt that this request was suddenly inexplicable. At that time, she had only made 2 movies, but Zhou Jianchen had already won the honor of being the actor. Zhou Jianchen made her debut early, although she was young, she should be considered a senior figure in terms of seniority. In that photo, she smiled cautiously. This was the first time she took a photo with a boy. It's just that she originally thought it was just a simple group photo, who knew something happened later. In the afternoon, Zhou Jianchen posted a group photo on Weibo, which aroused heated discussion. She only learned about this after she was told. The agent said, "You took a photo with Zhou Jianchen?" She took her phone and read Weibo, then there was a moment of silence. Although she is in the filming industry, she still doesn't like being the focus. The agent sighed, said he knew, and then walked out. She didn't know who she had contacted and said or anything. In short, that Weibo was quickly deleted, and Zhou Jianchen's team also gave an explanation in the first place. The agent said, "That is you, I don't know how lucky I am to change someone else." Later, Zhou Jianchen called to apologize for this. He said he was embarrassed, but he didn't expect to cause such a big disturbance. She didn't know how he had his own phone number, and she didn't know what to say, she just replied it's okay. She remembered that Zhou Jianchen laughed on the phone, and then said, "Liang Yin, I really like you." She had never been chased, and she was very surprised. Zhou Jianchen didn't say anything, and soon hung up the phone. That day, she and Zhou Jianchen met for the first time. They had never met before. She didn't know where his so-called very liking for you came from. She didn't take it seriously anymore. Things in the entertainment industry were complicated and difficult to distinguish. Everyone seemed to have too many feelings. She didn't understand, so she didn't take it seriously. What's more, at that time, only Zhong Mingzhen was in her heart. It's just that she hadn't paid attention to what he said, and she knew him a long time ago. She had known him long before they met for the first time. Zhong Mingzhen loves to watch movies, and will watch one if he is free. Zhong's family has a private theater, and he often stays in it. He loves to watch, and she follows it too, new, old, foreign, domestic, one after another, just to catch up with his footsteps. Then inadvertently, she was attracted by a person on the screen. It was a gangster movie, in which the actor sneaked into a criminal organization as an undercover agent. It took 7 years to turn from a passionate hairy boy to a cruel but tormented criminal chief. He supported the path he walked under his feet with the belief in victory, and every step seemed to be on the tip of a knife. However, just as he was almost at the point of success, his beliefs were met with suspicion. He gained brotherhood in the criminal organization, but he was betrayed in the police station that he thought was his biggest support. In the final fight, the police shot at him, and the brothers desperately protected him. Everyone believed that he was a criminal through and through, and no one believed that he still had a conscience in his heart. However, at the last moment, when he and his former colleague were holding guns at each other, when the other party's trigger had already been knocked, he released the gun first. After the struggle, after the despair, he smiled slightly even though he was betrayed, he still kept his faith. The film did not end with this. The colleague shifted the muzzle in shock when he discovered that he had let go of the gun. Therefore, the bullet was shot but did not hit the point. In the process of robbing, everything became clear. The male protagonist did not forget his original intention, and he became the biggest hero. But he also stepped into a haze. He killed the life and death brothers who had followed him, and sent the other brothers to the cell one by one. All the survivors wanted to put him to death, and he woke up in nightmares every day. In the end, he finally died when he was standing on top of the opposite high level while rescuing a little girl. In the last scene of the film, he is lying on the concrete floor, with blood gurgling from his head, but his expression is calm, and his eyes seem to be smiling while looking at the blue sky. The background music played, accompanied by the oath he made when he entered the police station at the beginning of the film. This film swept the major awards of the film festival that year, and set off a wave of police and criminal films. Countless film critics are analyzing the plot, loyalty and humanity, justice and darkness, and even truth and falsity. It seems that every point can be a topic and arouse a lot of discussion. Liang Yin didn't pay attention to these, she just remembered the male lead. The male lead is Zhou Jianchen. His youthfulness, determination, struggle, hesitation, despair, and even the final gloom, relief, all moved people. She remembered the play, remembered the name Zhou Jianchen, and then went to get to know this person. He was in his early 20s that year and participated in 5 or 6 movies, all of which were fine. His acting skills are really impeccable. Students, young masters, criminals, patients, all walks of life, all kinds of people, etc., all master. At that time, he already belonged to the most popular group of people in the entertainment industry. The scenery is boundless, the future is boundless. At that time, Liang Yin really paid attention to Zhou Jianchen, but all the attention ended here. She knew that there was such a person in the entertainment circle who liked his play, that's all. In the past few years abroad, she has read a lot of news about him. His reputation is so great that even a little bit of trouble can be posted on the internet. He has rarely filmed in the past 2 years. After a movie was released last spring, no more works came out. He said he was going to rest for a while, and he said he was going to go behind the scenes, and then it really broke the news that he was the young boss of Starlight Media. Star Media, the first domestic media company, is a leader in the industry. During that time, Weibo was full of his headlines. But for these, she just looked at it. She naturally also has Weibo, but not many people know about it. Although she doesn't act anymore, she still pays attention to the trends of some film and television circles. When there is a good movie, she will also go to the cinema to watch it. It is often alone, often entering after the movie begins, and leaving before the end of the movie. She came into contact with the movie because of Zhong Mingzhen, but only after contacting it did she discover that she seemed to really like it. At that time, Zhong Mingzhen seemed to stop watching movies. He was so busy that he rarely returned home. So how did she step into the film and television industry? It seems that it is also for Zhong Mingzhen. Zhong Mingzhen likes to watch movies. She watched him watch movies in silence, and then she wondered if one day she went to make movies too, could he see her too? Then one day, the Zhong family's uncle brought his good friend, the great director Chen Huwen. After seeing her, Director Chen looked at her for a while and asked, "Are you interested in making movies? I have been looking for a suitable heroine for one of my films." She turned to ask Zhong Mingzhen. Zhong Mingzhen stood at the top of the stairs with his trouser pockets in his hands. After thinking for a long time, she replied, "If you like it, you can try." Then she turned her head and nodded towards Director Chen. At that time, he was her light, and he said yes, that would be good. Liang Yin's heart hurts again, her memory is always too good, and she can remember even the smallest things. At that time, she was filming for Zhong Mingzhen, but until now, he probably hasn't seen a movie she played. The plane flew all the way, across the ocean, through the darkness, as if tirelessly. It was quiet in the first-class cabin, and everyone seemed to be sleeping. Zhou Jianchen originally planned to have a good night's sleep during the Tanhur journey, but he didn't feel sleepy after changing into his pajamas and blindfolding. He always thought of Liang Yin, who was sitting next to him, in his mind. At this moment, their distance may be less than 2 meters. He didn't know why his memory was so good. With just one glance, he remembered her appearance all over the place, even the bag in her hand, the scarf around her neck, and even the faint smell of perfume on her body. He swears that he doesn't like to smell the messy perfume on those female stars, but he doesn't know why. The perfume smell from her just broke through his nose all the way to the bottom of his heart. He wanted to erase it, but it didn't help. There was no movement in the cabin next door. He didn't know if she was asleep or what. At first, his cabin door was opened and never closed, but an hour passed, and 2 hours passed. She still showed no sign of opening the door, and he just felt angry. Closed his door. Even if he meets his old friends in his hometown, even if he doesn't have the idea of talking for a long time, he won't be stuck with such a simple greeting. Later, he heard the sound of her coming out once when she opened the door. He opened the door and saw that she seemed to have gone to the bathroom, so he pretended to follow. When she came out, she was obviously a little surprised when she saw him washing his hands in front of the wash basin at the door, but what happened later? Later, after a light smile, he lowered his head and left with him without saying hello. Later, I came back and closed the door again, and never opened it again. Zhou Jianchen thought about her inhumane appearance, and he became more unable to sleep. The red wine in the glass had bottomed out again. He had no intention of having another glass or forcing himself to fall asleep, doing nothing. So he just turned on his own private TV. There are a lot of movie resources. After screening one by one, the movie starring Liang Yin suddenly appeared in the line of sight. Minjiao, her second movie, he liked it very much. I don't know how many times he watched it, but this time, he stared at it for half a second, skipped it, and directly clicked on the bad movie next to it, Love the Great Test. The opening song of the movie sounded in the earphones. He listened numbly, but in Minjiao, she was sitting on the edge of the Suzhou River when she first appeared. Zhou Jianchen didn't know when he fell asleep. When he woke up, his hair was messed up, his headphones were thrown aside, and the movie on TV was over. What rang in my ears was the broadcast sound on the plane, indicating that the plane was about to arrive at the destination. The 14-hour journey is finally coming to an end. Zhou Jianchen glanced at his watch, rubbed his eyes with the palm of his hand, changed his clothes, picked up his belongings and walked out. When I opened the door, I remembered that Liang Yin was next door, and saw that her door was still closed, so he turned and walked to the bathroom again. I rinsed hard, and when I went in, my hair was messy and sleepy, and my eyes were clearly getting up. When I came out, he looked sane and sober. He buttoned his cuffs and walked forward. Before returning to his resting cabin, he saw that the door next door was still closed. He didn't miss him. He only glanced at him and then pushed the door back into his room. He doesn't have many things, but it's quite fragmentary. When he is rough, and when he is detailed, he is very detailed. At the moment, he is slowly tidying up. After a while, I seemed to hear the stewardess knocking on the door next door, but there was no response for a while, and after a while, I heard the door opening. Her voice faintly came from her ears, as if she was apologetic. She was asleep while listening to music on headphones, but she didn't hear it for a while. He couldn't help but sneered. What music broadcast was so loud that he didn't hear it? Dead heavy metal? She can really sleep. He didn't want to pay attention to her anymore, and even opened the door to meet her. After packing his luggage, he just put the bag aside, and then he sat down to read the magazine. The plane flew for a while and finally landed. Zhou Jianchen stayed in his rest cabin until the last moment when he picked up his bag and opened the door. His time is pretty good, he is the first to leave, and no one is seen. As a result, he just opened the door and walked out, and Liang Yin just opened the door and walked out. The aisle was only 1 meter wide, and the two of them met each other and stopped. The air stagnated for a moment. Zhou Jianchen paused for a while, and then took a half step back, his eyes calm and expressionless. Liang Yin nodded slightly to thank, and was about to leave, but she didn't know what she was hooking. The coat she was holding in the middle left was pulled. She turned to look, but she was holding a hat, mobile phone and ticket in her right hand, so she missed and the phone fell. The ticket also floated down. Liang Yin didn't feel embarrassed, but just glanced at it, then squatted down to pick up the phone after he straightened his coat. She was wearing a long skirt, squatting down and falling to the ground with her skirt, calm and charming. The ticket floated to Zhou Jianchen. He originally wanted to pick it up, but in the end he just took a half step back, like an indifferent bystander who had nothing to do with him. It was just that when his gaze fell from her slipped long hair accidentally to the hand she stretched out to pick up the ticket in front of him, his gaze changed for a moment. Liang Yin picked up the things and stood up, smiled at Zhou Jianchen, then turned and left. However, Zhou Jianchen looked at her gaze, already becoming surprised. There is no ring on her hand, only a ring of ring marks. The author has something to say, add more. Small theater. One day, Zhou Jianchen met with a female celebrity. The female celebrity is eager to talk. Zhou Jianchen glanced at her and said, I have seen your acting. The female star was very excited, really? Zhou Jianchen, it sucks. Female star. Zhou Jianken's thoughts on the movie The Great Test of Love. The first-class passengers still left through the VIP passage. Zhou Jianchen followed Liang Yin, his eyes became complicated when he looked at her back. Liang Yin wore a hat and a scarf, and there was no other disguise. He seemed to have forgotten the disguise, he just wore a pair of sunglasses, not even a mask. His heart was tumbling, and his thoughts were surprisingly clear. Her haggardness, her traveling alone, and her ring-marked ring finger all seemed to explain one thing, but he was not sure. He kept repeating the scenes that happened along the way. Her inhuman feelings turned into silence and depression. She fell asleep listening to music and even didn't hear the radio. It was interpreted as a heart full of troubles and sleeplessness. These, all disturbed him. Peaceful. He had a desire to smoke, but he could only suppress it, and then followed her all the way forward. A Zhao has hurriedly chased him up. Brother Chen, Sister Xiao's call. Brother Chen in the VIP room drove him out and never looked for him again. He reflected on it, and was anxious, unable to rest on the way. When he got off the plane, he didn't wait for him, only one person walked fast. Sister Xiao called, and he ran for a while before catching up. It was also at this time that he knew that Brother Chen's cell phone had been turned off. Listening to Sister Xiao's tone, it seemed that something extraordinary had happened. Zhou Jianchen paused, took a look, and still took his mobile phone. Hello. Actually, he didn't need to listen, he already knew what Sister Xiao would say on the phone. Sure enough, as soon as his voice rang, Sister Xiao came over with a crackling meal. Zhou Jianchen. You have the ability to do it, you have the ability, don't persuade. You can turn off after posting Weibo. I asked you not to respond to your ears for the time being, you think you don't have enough things, don't you? You say you ha what ha. Sister Xiao's voice was sharp and pierced her eardrums. Zhou Jianchen could not help moving her phone to her ears as she listened. After she finished speaking, she frowned and faintly replied, Who said I am? Respond to her. After finishing speaking, she didn't wait for Sister Xiao to answer, she hung up the phone and threw the phone back into A Zhao's hand. A Zhao hurriedly caught, and saw Zhou Jianchen walking away, and hurriedly followed. Sister Xiao is like a tigress in the company. Everyone is afraid of her, so Brother Chen will just hang up her phone if she says. Zhou Jianchen had already turned on his mobile phone, and as soon as it was turned on, countless information was discussed. Phone, SMS, WeChat, Weibo, etc. etc. Zhou Jianchen directly clicked on Weibo. Not surprisingly, countless likes, comments, forwards, and private messages. Under the latest Weibo, there are 200,000 comments. Hot comment number 1, I seem to see my Chen brother's full face of ridicule. Back to the homepage, the hot search first, Zhou Jianchen responded to the romance, the second hot search, the agent responded to Zhou Jianken's romance. Poke into the second article, I got news from Zhou Jianken's agent. Zhou Jianchen is currently single and has never heard of a girlfriend. The news was released 2 hours after he posted his Weibo. Su Lily set off a shocking wave, and there was a lot of discussion from the outside world. He responded 14 hours later. 16 hours later, Sister Xiao also made an official statement, but it was an understatement, as if the matter had nothing to do with them. Not to mention at all. Others lifted it up high, and she took it gently, dissolving into the invisible. Sister Xiao has been in the entertainment industry for more than 20 years. She has experienced many storms and she naturally knows how to deal with them. And she used to love him, even if he was never obedient, she could always cooperate in handling things properly. So even if she was fierce to him, he just listened. Just like this time, Su Lily's whereabouts are still unknown, and all directions are unclear, but as long as he expresses his position, she will cooperate with him as soon as possible, even if there is too much interest involved. Zhou Jianchen glanced a few times and put away the phone again. The consignment office was in front, and Liang Yin had stopped there in sight. "Brother Chen, I'm going to get the luggage." At the side, A Zhao had already rushed forward, but he paused after taking 2 steps. He also saw the sound of the beam at the front corner. After taking a look at Zhou Jianchen, when he saw that his expression was unclear, he stopped to say more, just walked over quickly. Zhou Jianchen followed behind and did not stop. "The luggage hasn't arrived yet, it seems something has gone wrong." After the explanation from the staff, Liang Yin waited quietly. Azao did not dare to get too close to her. After taking the cart, he stood 2 or 3 meters away from her. When he turned around, he found Zhou Jianchen. He also came over and stopped between the two of them. After a few steps from him, he was only 1 meter away from Liang Yin. A Zhao just didn't realize it, and watched the direction of the conveyor belt. Zhou Jianchen looked at the slowly moving conveyor belt for a long time, and finally opened his mouth. "Do you take your luggage?" His voice was very low, his head lowered, and he didn't know who to ask. A Zhao is only unheard of. Liang Yin turned his head to make sure he was talking to himself again, smiled lightly and lowered his head and said, "Yes." Zhou Jianchen looked up at her, but she turned her head again. The luggage on the conveyor belt was finally brought out, leaning on her direction. Zhou Jianchen looked at her side face, and finally landed on her hand carrying the suitcase. After a long silence, he asked, "Are you alone?" Liang Yin's voice hesitated for a moment. "Yes." "How can I go back later?" Zhou Jianchen asked, taking down one of his suitcases. Liang Yin had already taken all his luggage, 1 large and 1 small, 2 suitcases, plus her handbag, there were 3 in total. She put on the cart one by one, orderly. "I'll take a taxi." She returned to Zhou Jianchen with a smile, put everything away, and said, "I'm leaving now." With that, he lowered his head and pushed up the cart and walked out. Zhou Jianchen looked at her back and was momentarily silent. "Brother Chen." A Zhao had already walked over with the luggage cart, and took the box in his hand and put it on. Zhou Jianchen looked at the front and said, "Go and help her push the cart." A Zhao was startled. Zhou Jianchen had already taken the cart in his hand. A Zhao couldn't react. When he recovered, Zhou Sa Chen had already left. He hurriedly followed up. After confirming that he had no other intentions, he hurried to Liang Yin's side. "Miss Liang, I'll give you a push." Liang Yin was startled when he heard the voice coming from the side. When he turned around, Zhou Jianchen, who saw A Zhao behind him, understood again, "No, I can do it myself." "It's okay, let me come." Liang Yin was still refusing, and A Zhao showed a smile and walked around to take the cart in her hand. Liang Yin was still embarrassed. Zhou Jianchen had already walked over. "Let's go." After speaking, he pushed the car forward again. A Zhao had already left, and Liang Yin could only follow him when he saw it. "Thank you." When she walked to Zhou Jianchen's side, she whispered. Zhou Jianchen looked ahead and turned a deaf ear. The 3 people walked forward together, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they all kept a certain distance between them. A Zhao walked in the middle and was also in the front. Liang Yin walked on the right against the wall, second only to A Zhao. Zhou Jianchen walked at the end, leaning on the left side of the aisle, keeping a distance from Liang Yin enough to resemble a stranger. The aisle is very long, and in front is the hall intersection, the place with the largest flow of people. And just a dozen or so far away, a huge cheer came over. Zhou Jianchen is most sensitive to this kind of voice, and A Zhao already has professional sensitivity. "Brother Chen, I'll take a look," he said, hurried forward. After a while, he came back again. His expression was not so good. "Brother Chen, the fan of Yu Jiao in front of you will pick up the plane again. I see that there are still many media." Zhou Jianchen frowned as he listened. Yu Jiao, a popular little fresh meat, played an idol drama last year and gained countless fans. A Zhao had a bad impression of him. It is said that some time ago, Yu Jiao's fans slammed on his brother Chen. Although he was immediately assaulted by the fans and went back there, he did not continue to be a demon, but the colleagues said, "Still hang up this person." It is said that Sister Xiao also gave a big temper for this, saying that if it weren't for you to refuse to take the scene now, which round will you get these people jumping, you deserve to be dissed. Well, since last year, Chen Ji hasn't picked up a single film. Zhou Jianchen knew Yu Jiao because of this incident. "What should I do now?" A Zhao was a little embarrassed. Brother Chen wanted to return home quietly. How could he have thought that Yu Jiao was also present at the airport at this time, and it alarmed so many fans and the media, and he was still stuck at the exit. "Go out now, who knows how much noise will be made. What's more, Liang Yin is still around. I'll go first." Liang Yin already understood what was going on, and said first. Naturally, they couldn't just go out together like this. With that said, she was about to take her cart. A Zhao did not dare to let go, but looked back at Zhou Jianchen. Liang Yin also looked at him. When Zhou Jianchen looked at her, he suddenly remembered the remarks he had seen about after the shadow of the air. He naturally thought of what A Zhao could think of. The above words were really ugly. He didn't dare to think about her going out alone. If she was photographed by the media, she would be written like this. Azao, thinking, he turned to Azao. "Ah Xian has arrived." A Xian, his other assistant, contacted him before to pick up the plane. "I've arrived, waiting in the parking lot." A Zhao didn't know why he asked, so he answered truthfully. "Then you send her in the car first." "Hey!" A Zhao was surprised. Liang Yin's eyes were also a little surprised. "I'll take a taxi and go back by myself," Zhou Jianchen said, turning his head and pushing his luggage cart and walked forward. "Zhou Jianchen! Brother Chen!" The two wanted to stop, but Zhou Jianchen had already left without looking back. A Zhao wanted to chase, but there was Liang Yin beside him. In a dilemma, he finally looked at Liang Yin. "Miss Liang, let's go." Liang Yin was still watching Zhou Jianchen. He walked without hesitation, as if he didn't care what would happen before him. But he is Zhou Jianchen, just pushing the luggage cart out, who knows how much disturbance it will cause, not to mention that he has to go out to take a taxi by himself. Zhou Jianchen walked forward, as expected. As soon as he exited the VIP channel, he was immediately recognized. The exit next to it was crowded with people. Young female fans held up posters, lights, and flower gifts to surround Yu Jiao. They screamed, cheered, and couldn't help themselves. The reporter next to him kept taking pictures, taking notes of the scenes before him, and he was already thinking of beautiful headlines in his heart. But at this moment, someone yelled Zhou Jianchen, and suddenly, several eyes around him were attracted, and then a loud shout of Zhou Jianchen came out. "Zhou Jianchen! It's Zhou Jianchen! Look at it! That's Zhou Jianchen! Zhou Jianchen! It's really Zhou Jianchen!" Ah! Everyone's eyes were attracted, and the mobile phone cameras in their hands turned one after another. The reporters were even more overjoyed. Originally, they were just interviewing Yu Zioxian Ro as if on a mission. Who knew that he would meet Zhou the actor by chance? How could this heavenly joy not be exciting? The affairs of Zhou Jianchen and Su Lily have blown up major websites in the past 2 days. How many people want to get a reply from the person involved, but let alone the person involved, they can't even see the shadow of the person involved. Unexpectedly, in a blink of an eye, Zhou Jianchen would appear in front of him like this. The flow of people began to surging, and Yu Jiao was still surrounded by many people, but more people had begun to rush in Zhou Jianchen's direction. Zhou Jianchen was in the limelight, but Shi Shiran walked out of the passage. He was wearing a coat, pushing a cart, wearing sunglasses, with a smile on his mouth, and he couldn't be more approachable. A reporter has rushed to the front and asked eagerly, "Mr. Zhou, is the matter between you and Miss Su true? Miss Su can't contact you now, do you know where she is?" "Mr. Zhou, what you said is it aimed at Su Lily?" The question is straight to the point, one after another. The crowd had also swarmed in, surrounded by him. Zhou Jianchen stopped, took off his sunglasses, and waved his hands to keep the surrounding fans calm. "Pay attention to safety, pay attention to safety." As for the reporter's question, it seemed that he hadn't heard it at all. His eyebrows are good-looking, and in a blink of an eye, there is a different style. At this time, he is bright and gentle, making people feel sincerely gentle and close. Unlike just now. There was already crying in the crowd, which was crying with joy. The push just now gradually subsided. "Mr. Zhou, are you coming back from abroad?" another reporter asked. "Yes." Zhou Jianchen didn't turn a deaf ear this time, but turned to look at the reporter. "I gave myself a vacation some time ago and went abroad to play for a while. I originally wanted to come back quietly, but I didn't expect to be caught by everyone. I found it." While speaking, a helpless smile appeared again. Everyone laughed when they heard this answer. At this time, Zhou Jianchen had become a humorous person again. Most people remember him as an unruly person, but in fact, those people in the entertainment industry know everything about him. It's just that when he was telling a joke, he looked away through the crowd. By the side of the aisle, A Zhao and Liang Yin were leaving quietly. When he looked over, by coincidence, Liang Yin was also looking back. Through the crowd, the two people's eyes met, and soon, Zhou Jianchen turned his eyes to the crowd again. There was no more commotion in the crowd, and everyone was infected by his soft smile. How rare, they can get close to their idol so close, so everyone is tightly surrounding him and refuses to disperse. Of course, there are still reporters who refuse to give up. "Mr. Zhou, then, the person in Su Lily's photo is not you." Su Lily posted the photo yesterday, and he said that he had been abroad for this period of time and seemed to deny them. These 2 days have been together. Under the misunderstanding of thinking, it is natural to think that the person in the photo is not him. Zhou Jianchen turned his head, neither admitted nor denied, but just smiled. "My agent has already responded for me." After finishing speaking, he looked at the group of fans who were dizzy with joy and smiled. "Now I'm going to take a taxi, can you let me go?" As for the reporter's continued questioning, he ignored it. His eyes were sincere and pleading. How unused the fans around him, holding his face and nodding to the sides, even thoughtfully squeezing the reporters to the outer circle. As for Yu Jiao and others on the side, seeing the crowd approaching, they had to step back. At that time, there were no more than 20 or 30 people around him. Zhou Jianchen didn't seem to notice that there was such a person. He was just walking forward surrounded by the crowd. When he passed by, he always smiled and lowered his head, listening carefully to the questions of the enthusiastic fans around him. And before he walked out of the airport gate, the topic of Zhou Jianchen was surprised at the airport was already blasting the internet. The author has something to say. "Zhou Jianchen, the real actor, good morning, everybody please ask for flowers." In the car, Liang Yin watched the topics on Weibo and finally understood what Zhou Jianchen really faced after leaving alone. First, Su Lili suspected that Weibo announced his love affairs, then Zhou Jianchen responded with the word he, then the agent denied that Zhou Jianchen now has a girlfriend, then Zhou Jianchen surprised the airport, and then Zhou Jianchen was besieged. And then Zhou Jianchen took a taxi alone. All the follow-ups of the previous situation are presented. Liang Yin was a little surprised. She hadn't been on Weibo for a few days, and she didn't expect Zhou Jianchen to discover these things. Originally thought that he would only appear suddenly and take a taxi by himself, which would cause a sensation and inconvenience, but he did not expect that he would actually throw himself into the whirlpool of public opinion by doing so. She doesn't know how much impact Zhou Jianken's first appearance after Su Lili's love affair will have. Watching Zhou Jianchen pushing the luggage trolley and facing the crowd with a smile in the video, looking at the photos of him leaving the airport, getting in a taxi, and then closing the door, her gaze was a little shaken. She can't figure out exactly what Zhou Jianchen is. He made a few calls, sent several messages, and said something difficult to discern. In the final analysis, he was just a stranger with occasional encounters. Her impression of him is just like everyone else, good acting skills, perverse. She can't tell why Zhou Jianchen wanted to help her in this way. Doesn't she care about these media at all? But at the beginning, they still embarrassed the reporters who appeared unexpectedly. In the photo, Zhou Jianchen, dressed in black, smiles to everyone, friendly, approachable, and very patient. This is what she has never seen before him. The phone was turned off again, and Liang Yin looked out the window, silently. Outside the window is familiar and unfamiliar scenery, viaducts, densely packed buildings, all kinds of billboards, and the endless stream of people and traffic. Everything is stripped and overlapped with those things in memory. In the past 5 years, it's not that she has never come back, but she is always too rushed. The car continued to drive smoothly and fast on the road, but still no one spoke. Liang Yin originally didn't want Zhou Jianken's car to be sent back, but A Zhao just pushed the luggage cart all the way to the parking lot and then moved into the car first. The people in the car were astonished when they saw her, but after a brief exchange with A Zhao, they smiled and invited her up again. Just along the way, no one spoke. Except for the sound of pressing buttons from time to time by A Zhao and a few information prompts from the driver A Xian's mobile phone, there were no other sounds. Liang Yin may have guessed the reason, or he may not have guessed, but she never cared. She is used to being quiet, rarely speaks actively, and when others do not speak, she will not speak. It's just that this is Zhou Jianken's car after all, and the smell in the car belongs to him, not strong, but clear. There was also a cup of coffee in the place, and the driver offered her a drink, but she knew it should be for Zhou Jianchen. She didn't drink it, because she always felt that she had invaded a strange territory. In the co-pilot, after returning to Brother Xian's question, A Zhao kept swiping on Weibo. At this time, he also understood what had happened before. Abroad, he just brought his personal mobile phone. During the day, he fell asleep with Zhou Jianchen at night and had no time to watch what happened on Weibo. Now, he finally understood why Chen was so upset before. But no matter how unhappy, he still appeared in front of everyone for Liang Yinghao regardless of the trouble. He could walk away without any response, but he stayed for so long and dealt with it patiently for so long regardless of the trouble. Why? Perhaps it was just for Liang Yinghao to have more time to leave calmly. A Zhao seemed to have figured out a lot of things in an instant. Chen Ji liked Liang Yinghao, and he still likes it now. He wanted to ask Liang Yinghao what she thought, but Liang Yinghao was silent all the way. When talking to her before, she always smiled, and her voice was softly whispered, which seemed very kind, but it always made people feel the distance. The car drove for an hour and finally arrived at the destination. It was an apartment building. Although it was in a prosperous area, the surroundings were extremely quiet, and it was very valuable at first glance. "You just leave me at the door," Liang Yin said while looking at the door right in front of him. The driver, Xian, just slowed down and stopped at the door with a smile and said, "I'd better send you in. It is always inconvenient for you to bring your luggage." This is a man in his 30s, named Kui Mingxian, with an ordinary face, tall and steady, with experience on his face. Before seeing Ah Zhao brought her, there was a moment of surprise, but now everything seems to disappear. His gaze is also very real, which makes people cannot refuse. The access control is tight, and strange vehicles cannot enter. The guards have come to inquire. Liang Yin had no choice but to follow suit. Going through the strict access control and entering the underground garage, the vehicle finally stopped at the elevator entrance of the building where Liang Yin was. Xian got out of the car and opened the door for Liang Yin. "Thank you." Liang Yin felt a little at a loss. Xian was too diligent. "I'll take your luggage into the elevator." Xian has already taken down the trunk luggage for her. "No more trouble, I can do it myself." Liang Yin said hurriedly. "It's okay, just a few steps," he said, picking up his luggage and walking to the elevator. The others were tall and magnificent, and the 2 suitcases were nothing in their hands. A Zhao has also taken another duffel bag to keep up. Liang Yin had to keep up. When he reached the elevator entrance all the way, Xian put down his suitcase and pushed down the elevator again. He smiled and said, "I won't send you up." "Okay." Liang Yin nodded, "Trouble you." Xian smiled and said, "Miss Liang is polite." Liang Yin was silent for a while, then raised his head and said, "Thank you Zhou Jianchen for me, too." Xian smiled, "I don't dare to call the shots. If you want to thank you, you should thank our brother Chen personally." "Oh, yes, do you have our brother Chen's phone number?" Then, he took it out of his pocket. A business card was handed over again. Liang Yin was stunned on the spot before she could answer. She looked at the business card for a long time and didn't recover. It took a long while before she reached out and took it and thanked him. "Okay, thank you." "You're welcome." Xian still smiled and replied. The elevator had come down, Liang Yin wanted to take the luggage, and Xian had already pushed the suitcase in first. When the luggage was put away, no one came in. They just stood at the door and smiled and said, "Miss Liang, then we will say goodbye." "Good." Liang Yin nodded. Xian waved to her, she also waved to them, holding the business card in her hand. The elevator door was closed and gradually rose. Liang Yin looked down at the business card in his hand. It was very simple, Starlight Media Zhou Jianchen 7 words, and then his contact information. The elevator went straight to the 37th floor. With a ding, the door opened, Liang Yin recovered, and pushed his luggage out of the elevator. Press the fingerprint lock, the door opened, and a long-lasting breath came. Liang Yin put down his luggage and walked to the window to open the curtains. The sunlight poured in through the window, and the whole cold room seemed to come alive. Outside the window is a boulevard, and in the distance is a high-rise building. Here is 37th floor, everything seems to be in full view. This is the house she bought a long time ago, and used her first and second film pay. I lived there for a while, and then I got married and went abroad and just stayed idle. I have never thought about selling it. There are some feelings. Here is a place that she has that truly belongs to her. Whenever she wants to come back, she can always come back. She also asked someone to clean it once every time, so even though it has been so long, the house is still as clean as new. Liang Yin took a deep breath and started to pack things back again. The business card was on the table. She glanced at it, only to unzip the zipper on the suitcase again, but when she finished packing a suitcase, her gaze fell on the business card again. After thinking for a while, she finally took the phone and sent a text message. "Hello, this is Liang Yin, thank you for today. The author has something to say, actor Zhou, how did this woman send me a text message? Good morning oh. When Zhou Jianchen got into the taxi and put on sunglasses, his smile fell. He has never been impatient to deal with this kind of scene, but he has been patient with him today. He didn't know why he did it, it seemed like a ghost, it was simply inexplicable. The driver was still chattering, telling his wife, daughter, and even the old mother's love for him. Zhou Jianchen had to continue to deal with it. His eyes were full of impatience, that is, the sunglasses were blocked, no one could notice. He just set up an approachable idol persona at the airport, so he had to continue in front of others. The thought of himself tossing so much for that woman made him even more irritable. Obviously he was someone who ran to get married without saying a word, so why not care about her life or death? It is her business to divorce a wealthy family, and it is also her business to be photographed by reporters. What does it have to do with him? The screen of the phone lit up again, and when I saw it, it was Sister Xiao again. She has made no fewer than 20 phone calls, she can imagine her furious. At the moment, the news about him on the internet could not tell what the random flying would look like, and what he could bear, he couldn't know better. But now he is not in the mood to take care of this at all. What can he do if he does it all? He will still do it at another chance. The phone kept calling in, accompanied by WeChat pop-up messages. Zhou Jianchen didn't want to read it anymore, turned it off and threw it aside. The driver enthusiastically talked about the TV he had watched before. Zhou Jianchen listened indifferently, and only glanced out the window. There were busy traffic outside the window, but somehow in his mind, he remembered the scene of him and Liang Yin looking at each other through the crowd just now in the airport. At that time Liang Yin turned his head and looked at him from a distance, while he was standing like this, looking at her from a distance. At that moment, his heart was throbbing. An hour and a half later, Zhou Jianchen finally arrived at the door of the Starlight Media Group. After signing several names and taking several photos with the driver, he was finally able to leave with his luggage. Someone had already picked up the luggage for him, and people called Brother Chen all the way. The people inside Starlight had long felt that Zhou Jianchen was special in the company. At first, he thought that his position in the entertainment industry was highly valued by the big boss. Later, he realized that he was another boss of the company. The big boss's surname is Zhou, and his surname is Zhou. At first, he thought it was a coincidence. Who knew they were brothers? Zhou Jianchen has never mentioned this for so many years, let alone outsiders, but few people in the company know it well, so when it was exposed last year, I don't know how many people were surprised. However, Zhou Jianchen has never had that self-consciousness, and the company will not come once if nothing happens. As for the board of directors, don't expect him to participate. He is here now, that is, taking a taxi can't really let people take him home. Before he could walk into his office, Sister Xia rushed over with someone. Seeing her aggressive appearance, Zhou Jianchen didn't want to go back to his office, so he pushed aside the empty meeting room on the side and walked in. Knowing that it was inevitable, he simply died early and was overborne, too lazy to choose a place. Sister Xiao quickly followed up, and sure enough, the training began as soon as the door closed. Zhou Jianchen, are you addicted to shutting down the government? You are still sitting in a rental car. Why don't you come back all the way? I haven't counted on you for posting on Weibo without permission. You made such a big move for me when you turned around. You were deliberately not letting me stop, did you? Don't look at what time it is now. Su Lily hasn't found anyone yet. You are so fanatical. If you work together, you want to make everyone known. You still take photos with people? When are you so close to the people? Why didn't I see you cooperate so well in activities? Sister Xiao is 30 or 40 years old. She wears high heels and has a good temperament. She used to be an actor, and later changed her career to become an agent. He is shrewd and violent, and he doesn't stop seeing others for half an hour. Zhou Jianchen didn't shock her, but just sat in a swivel chair and let her scold herself as a dog. He had expected it early in the morning. The phone in his hand was turned on again, and he turned it over casually. expressionless. Sister Xiao was even more furious when he saw that he was not entering the oil and salt. What are you crazy about you? Why do you let so many people know that you are at the airport? Why do you have to take a taxi back? A Zhao, A Xian, where are they all dead? Seeing that Zhou was in a bad mood, Sister Xiao started to be impatient again now that she kept training. It's just that he just wanted to go back and stand up and leave. A text message popped up, and his hand swiping Weibo was clicked on. Hello, this is Liang Yin, thank you for today. Then, Sister Xiao's constant rants disappeared, everything was emptied, and the whole world was quiet. Zhou Jianchen looked at it slowly, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. This is the first time she has sent a message to herself. Sister Xiao saw him still smiling at a glance, and became even more irritated. Zhou Jianchen. Are you listening to me? Don't you always think that I didn't show up and let that Yu Jiao dissipate his face? I won't get your face back for you. Zhou Jianchen finally had a response. He put away the phone and stood up, unhurriedly said. All the irritability and impatience just now disappeared. Just now on Weibo, the topic Yu Jiao's fans picked up the plane and was crushed by Zhou Jianchen was being hotly discussed. When Sister Xiao heard these words, her words were at a loss for a moment. Zhou Jianchen refused to give her a chance to continue speaking, and turned the subject. Tell me about Su Lily, what's her situation now? When he returned to China this time, he just wanted to know what happened to Su Lily. Sister Xiao naturally didn't believe his remarks. How could Zhou Jianchen, such an arrogant person, put a star who had just risen from the 18th line in his eyes? But she didn't ask any more, just glanced at it. The phone in his hand replied, Su Lily hasn't found it yet. People around her have asked. No one knows where she is, and no one knows why she posted this Weibo, but her assistant said now, she really likes you. She has seen all of your works, and there are many photos of you in the phone. Then, she gave him a cold look. She is a person who accepts as soon as she sees it. Zhou Jianchen didn't want to continue, so she stopped mentioning it, although she had doubts in her heart. Although such a big disturbance this time has been raging, it has actually not brought any bad influence. The reason she made a fuss was that she was angry that he was too disobedient. This time she ignored her safety even more. A person showed up at the airport and took a taxi back. What should happen if something happens? When Zhou Jianchen heard her answer, he sneered. Sister Xiao then said again, now we don't know what she wants to do. The phone is turned off and Weibo can't be contacted. The whole person is just like the world has evaporated. Now we are afraid that there is something in her hands. At that time, it will affect you and affect the company. As he said, he looked at Zhou Jianchen meaningfully. Zhou Jianchen thought it was funny. What else can she have? She took this photo secretly. Suspect what he has to do with Su Lily? How is this possible? That's good. She was really afraid of what happened between him and Su Lily. He was accustomed to arbitrariness. He never said hello when he talked and did anything. It was not impossible to communicate with people secretly and hide her from her. Knowing that it's useless to say more, he said again, no matter what, you have kept me low-key these days and don't make any more moths. Su Lily won't show up, we will deal with it temporarily. If she has the ability, she will forever. Don't show up, people will forget about it after a long time. Anyway, the entertainment industry is just this urinary sex. No one knows the purpose of Su Lily's Weibo post, but in any case, it is tantamount to digging her own grave. Zhou Jianchen is not so easy to talk about, and Su Lily, as a contracted artist of Star Media, has to find another way out besides paying huge liquidated damages, which is the end of cold storage. Zhou Jianchen understands this point, and Sister Xiao understands this. I'm afraid Su Lily also understands it better. So this is also the reason why Sister Xiao adopted a conservative attitude at the beginning. If she hadn't relied on it, how could Su Lily look for death like this? I see. Zhou Jianchen naturally agreed, these are all necessary things. Everything was resolved. Zhou Jianchen didn't want to stay, he got up and left. By the way, your brother is at the company, do you want to see him? Sister Xiao suddenly said such a sentence behind her back. Zhou Jianchen paused, but quickly returned, no. After speaking, he turned and walked out. The relationship between him and his brother has never been very good. As for the others, there are people who handle it anyway, and it is not his turn to bother. Walking outside the door, Kui Mingxian and A Zhao just came back. Brother Chen, A Xian ran to report the situation quickly, Liang Yinghao has been sent home. Before, Sister Xiao called you several times when she couldn't find your phone number, but I didn't answer. He didn't dare to pick it up. He didn't dare to say anything about Liang Yinghao's brother Chen without speaking. But when Sister Xiao asked why brother Chen didn't take their car back, he didn't know how to answer. So, I simply turned a blind eye to Sister Xiao's call. Although Sister Xiao is fierce, Chen Ji is his boss after all. Of course, it is inevitable to be scolded by Sister Xiao afterwards. Zhou Jianchen nodded. Naturally he didn't want these things to be known by Sister Xiao. Send me back. He turned his head and confessed to A Xian, and then said to A Zhao, you go back too, you are also tired, so I will give you 2 days off. After that, I walked straight to the parking lot. A Xian quickly followed. A Zhao was especially grateful behind, thank you brother Chen. After getting on the bus, Zhou Jianchen buried himself in the seat. A large SUV is more comfortable to sit in than a cramped taxi. It's just that the tip of the nose has a scent that seems like nothing. Take out the phone, swipe the screen, still the interface of text messages. After a few swipes, there was no movement. A Xian looked through the rear-view mirror and started the car again. After thinking about it, he said, I didn't expect Miss Liang to live in Jiawan, Anping district. Boss, it's quite expensive, right? A Zhao called brother Chen. A Xian kept calling boss when he saw Chen was older than Zhou. In fact, he knew the inside story a long time ago. Yet, Zhou Jianchen thought for a while, and replied indiscriminately, but the approximate location of Liang Yin appeared in his mind. It is an apartment, adjacent to the campus, and every inch of it is worthy of money. A Xian looked at his reaction and knew that he had listened, so he said again, Miss Liang also said to thank you. I said that you have to thank you, so I gave him your business card. He said it naturally, as if everything was a natural thing. Zhou Jianchen replied indiscriminately, as if this was really not an important matter. After A Xian had finished saying what he was about to say, he drove in peace of mind, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In fact, today he was surprised to see that what A Zhao brought was Liang Yin, but when A Zhao told him later, he understood. He has been with Zhou Jianchen for almost 10 years and witnessed with his own eyes how he liked Liang Yin that year. When he went to visit the class, he drove with him. It is called the director's class, but it's all for her. Even if they could not say anything when he went there, he always had to sit down and take a look. Although this matter has been in the past for a long time, although no one mentions it again, it is still remembered. Not only him, but also the boss himself. Haven't seen that the boss hasn't found a girlfriend in the past few years? Oh, there is one, but when someone with a discerning glance, they all know that the female star is just like Liang Yin. How long did they talk about it? A month? It has not been more than 3 months. He thought, probably now the boss doesn't remember the name of the female star. But the boss obviously gave her resources, and now this female star is already well known. He is also a tight-lipped person, and it is estimated that no one knows that the two of them have talked. The boss looks like he is not stingy, but in fact he is very dedicated. He hoped that he could quickly find someone. He is already the father of 2 babies, and the boss is still alone. But now it seems that the boss still has old feelings for Liang Yinghao. Kui Mingxian thought, the corner of his mouth smiled even more, and then he drove the car steadily into the traffic. After getting in the car, Zhou Jianchen read the text message for a long time, and finally pressed the reply button, which contained only 3 words, "You are welcome." After sending it out, he threw the phone away, looking as if he didn't care. The author has something to say. Good morning, actor Zhou. Do you think I will get back to you immediately if you send me a text message? Do you think I have to take care of you when you text me? Oh, you are welcome to give it to you. Liang Yin didn't reply again. She expressed her gratitude, and Zhou Jianchen did not reply, which was enough. The house was cleaned all over again, and dusk had arrived. Liang Yin sat on the sofa with the pillows in his arms and watched the night fall a little bit. She began to miss the dog named Victor again. At that time, it was often around her feet, and it stayed with her no matter how long it was. Liang Yin was awakened by a ringing of his mobile phone, and when he woke up, it was Ruana's call. Ruana, you and Ruana, popular female stars, focus on TV dramas, because of their lovable looks, was once named the Most Popular Actress Award. It seems that they have nothing to do with Liang Yin. In fact, the two of them are very good friends. Ruana is the only one who knows that Liang Yin married the Zhong family and attended the wedding. Liang Yin also handed over the place of Jiawen. She takes care of it, but the two have never made any claims to the outside world, and have never been in the same position, so this relationship is not known to the outside world. I just don't know why Ruana called her suddenly. Hello, Ruana. Liang Yin sat up, his voice a little low. She fell asleep on the sofa just now. Looking out the window, it was already dark. Ruana's voice soon came, Yunyin, you are back? How did I see that all the news on Weibo was your return? Where are you? Liang Yin was a little surprised. Yes, I'm back. You really came back? I still don't believe it. Why didn't you tell me? But you have been photographed. You should check Weibo. You are all on hot search. Ruana said again. Liang Yin always contacted her every time he came back, and never told her this time. It would inevitably surprise her. And she also knows Liang Yin's Loki. Every time she comes back, she will not be noticed. This time there is such a big disturbance, she will naturally let her know the first time. Liang Yin quit and took a look, and sure enough, his name appeared on the hot search. Then where are you now? Why did you come back suddenly? How long are you going to stay this time? I told you that I must see you this time. The last time Liang Yin came back, she was busy filming and couldn't see it at all. Liang Yin was still a little inexplicable. He looked at Weibo and replied, I'm in Jiawen, this time. I will stay for a while. That's great. I will finish the filming just in time tomorrow, and I will come to you then, you must wait for me. Ruana didn't hear Liang Yin's hesitation while speaking, but said excitedly. Ruana was still busy, and she hung up after a few more words. Liang Yin looked at Weibo and finally knew what was going on. The matter originated from a photo of Zhou Jianchen at the airport. As soon as Zhou Jianchen appeared at the airport, he became the focus, and he was photographed countless, and then there was one, which happened to capture Liang Yin. In that photo, Zhou Jianchen pushed the luggage trolley toward the crowd with a smile. Around him, countless passengers shuttled. Behind him, at a distance of 108,000 miles, Liang Yin just walked sideways quietly, silently. This is supposed to be a subtle corner, and no one will notice at all. But who is Zhou Jianchen? Everything about him will be magnified, and watched again and again. Therefore, after people watched the video over and over again, and the photos over and over again, Liang Yin was discovered in this way. Look, is this person Liang Yin? In the photo, Liang Yin is zoomed in. Although the pixels are blurry, she can still see her face turned sideways. After some comparisons, everyone confirmed that it was Liang Yin who walked silently behind Zhou Yingdi. After confirming this fact, those who are most excited about Liang Yin's fans. Liang Yin has disappeared for 5 years, they have been concerned about it for 5 years, and now it is not exciting to see her appear. In an instant, the return of Liang Yin was swept over the internet. At that time, the topic of Yujiao Airport being ruthlessly crushed by Zhou Jianchen had already received a lot of heated discussion, and now it was discovered that Liang Yinghao had also appeared on the spot. The topic was even more exploded. What is the small fresh meat? What is it to be ruthlessly crushed by a big boss? Don't you see another hidden big boss behind? This gangster is also really low-key, walking in the crowd silently, and he doesn't mind serving as a background board. At first, Yu Jiao fans accused Zhou Jianchen of squeezing out newcomers and embarrassing others by showing up at the airport deliberately, but Liang Yin was directly ridiculed by the group as soon as he came out. What is your Yu Jiao? Didn't you just act in a hit drama? Liang Yinghao is still a queen. They are all award-winning people. She appeared at the airport in such a low-key manner, and she never said she was killed. Stealing the limelight. Said Zhou Jianchen deliberately embarrassed you, what a big face. Zhou Jianquan's fans have long been dissatisfied because of Yu Jiao's fans. In the meantime, some people naturally didn't know Liang Yin, so the youngest queen of the year was popularized again. Liang Yin is too beautiful, usually low-key and not noticed, but once in the movie, it seems to be a light in the crowd. And her acting skills are too superb, even if it is just a simple movie clip, it is enough to inspire people. So after a wave of popular science, Liang Yin has countless fans. Liang Yin was also on the hot search. Naturally, some people also remembered the previous rumors. Didn't Liang Yinghao have been in a car accident and went abroad? Has there been no news in the past few years? Why did he come back suddenly? So some people began to speculate again, is it because Liang Yinghao is going to make a comeback? Discussions on the internet were still raging, and Liang Yin was a little dumb after reading the whole process. She didn't expect things to develop like this. She has always been a person who does not want to expose herself to the public. At that time, apart from making movies, she rarely appeared in public places. She did not expect such a big disturbance. And all this is because of a photo of Zhou Jianchen. It was just that she stopped looking at it soon. She already knew what was going on, so she didn't have to pay attention to the other things. Even if it was discovered that her return to China was a little bit unexpected, it will always pass as time passes. The online world is changing rapidly, and she doesn't need to care too much. As for her fans, she has always been grateful. Over the years, she knew their existence to some extent. She had seen them and Ruana had reposted them to her, but she didn't explain them at first, and then there was only silence. She is not a person who can easily confess her own affairs, not to mention that the car accident 5 years ago came too suddenly. Liang Yin felt cold. The car accident made her near death, making her unable to sit in the driving chair calmly even after so many years. I can't think back. In Qihu Villa, Zhou Jianchen was also scanning Weibo, but he was a little irritable. I thought that this incident would just pass, but Liang Yin was still photographed, but fortunately, it wasn't a bad thing. But because of this, he was a little upset. He originally wanted to avoid Liang Yin being criticized before he came to help. Who knows that things are not like that at all? After all, he underestimated the influence of Liang Yin. Even if he retired for 5 years, he still has many fans, even more and more, even if he is photographed. There is no such thing as overdue when traveling by one person. So why did he make such a big noise? In her eyes, is it unnecessary? Zhou Jianchen didn't understand why Liang Yin was sought after by so many people. Didn't she just film 3 shows? She has disappeared irresponsibly for so many years. What's worth noting? The other mobile phone on the table was always quiet. He turned off the WeChat and Weibo notifications, and only opened a text message, but the mobile phone was silent from beginning to end. Liang Yin never returned any text messages. I didn't want to watch anymore and couldn't sleep, so I just opened the game. Just after playing for a while, Ah Zhao called. Hello. He was a little inexplicable. It was past 11 o'clock by this time. He didn't know what A Zhao was looking for him so late. Brother Chen, it's okay. A Zhao's voice on the other end of the phone was a little anxious. You go to Weibo and write you and Liang Yinghao on it. Zhou Jianchen frowned and opened Weibo, his face turned ugly. In just a moment, the news about the airport began to ferment again. With the heated discussion on the two topics of Zhou Jianken's surprise at the airport and the return of the movie queen Liang Yin, some people finally thought of the scandal that year. Back then, Zhou Jianchen publicly confessed to Liang Yin. So some people wondered whether it was possible that Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao did not show up at the airport because of a coincidence contract, but actually traveled together. As for the two people walking separately in tandem, it was just deliberate. As soon as this doubt emerged, it instantly attracted everyone's goals. Later, someone broke the news that Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao did indeed take the same flight back to China. Suddenly, it caused an uproar. People from all walks of life began to track down one after another, wanting to find out, but the more they were investigated, the more frightening they became. It has been confirmed that Zhou Jianchen did go abroad a week ago, and many people have photographed him abroad. And a revelation many years ago was also turned out. Someone had seen Liang Yin abroad. Although Liang Yin could not see clearly at the time, he was confirmed to be him. And the place where he saw Liang Yin was undoubtedly the country Zhou Jianchen had visited. In addition, someone with interest found that Chen was wearing a black trench coat in the photo last week, and Liang Yin was actually wearing a black long coat, which looked like a couple shirt. It was late at night when they had time to rest, but when this hot topic came out, no one could sleep at all. Su Lily's suspected exposure to Zhou Jianken's relationship before was shocking enough. Fortunately, Zhou Jianchen quickly denied it. Who knew that the suspected relationship between Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yin had been exposed again? This was simply going to shake the rhythm. And as the cocoons were stripped away, more and more evidences were cited. Who is Zhou Jianchen? Have you seen him appear at the airport so patiently taking pictures with people all these years? And he takes a taxi? Do you really believe that he came back alone and did not arrange to feel the life of ordinary people? Who is Zhou Jianchen? Back then, he was rated as the most difficult young master in the entertainment industry. Also, even if he was really on a whim, how could he be singled out? At this time, he was at the airport and Liang Yinghao was also at the airport. It would be a coincidence. Therefore, there is only one possibility for so many abnormal things to be connected together. Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao did not know when the old relationship rekindled. This time they came back together. They thought they were unconscious, but they didn't expect to meet you. Zhou fans picked up the plane, and in order not to be spotted, they had to split their troops. Liang Yinghao must have left first in the arranged car, and Zhou Yinghao had to stay and face the crowd to divert attention. This analysis was nothing short of penetrating the inside, and everyone began to believe it was true, and Zhou Jianchen Liang Yin was immediately sent to the hot search. It was just that soon, someone raised doubts if Zhou Jianchen was really dating Liang Yinghao. Why did Su Lily suddenly post such a Weibo before? Zhou Jianken's discussion on Weibo was almost vomiting blood for 3 liters. He tried his best to save Liang Yin from criticism. In the end, they even pulled her and himself together like this. When are they together? Can you just talk nonsense with just one mouth? Couple outfit? Especially if 2 people wearing the same color clothes are lovers, then his lovers don't want to line up to the galaxy. At this time, his Weibo has also fallen. Liang Yin could not confirm it without Weibo, so everyone went to his Weibo to verify. The number of comments directly broke the 500,000 mark. The author has something to say. Good morning small theater. At the beginning, Zhou Jianken's Weibo was all about begging for male gods to show his face. Later, after he married Liang Yin, his Weibo became like this: Brother Chen, why post some pictures of Liang Yin? Brother Chen, please send me a video of my goddess. Zhou Yingdi said that he wanted to say goodbye to Weibo Jianghu. Zhou Jianchen looked at him, almost astonished. The photo of him sitting on the table and watching Liang Yin was even turned over and turned into evidence. How long ago this happened? But just when he was about to post on Weibo, Sister Xiao called in. Seeing the name above, Zhou Jianchen hesitated for a moment, but finally answered the phone. Hello. You haven't slept yet? Sister Xiao's tone was unprecedentedly calm. Yet. Zhou Jianchen replied. Let's talk about it, what's going on? The sound of Sister Xiao's cigarette lighter came from the other end of the phone. In fact, she was furious when she was awakened by the phone, but when she learned what had happened, she calmed down. Nothing to say. Zhou Jian was a little impatient, and didn't want to mention it at all. As shrewd as her, how can she not know what is going on? Sister Xiao did seem to get the answer she wanted, then it was really just a chance encounter. Seeing Zhou Jianchen did not respond, she said, you don't need to respond anymore. The Weibo on the big evening is not good for anyone. I'll just make a statement tomorrow morning. After a pause, he said, if you really want to post something, you have to wait until tomorrow morning. Zhou Jianchen did not speak, but his eyes were a little cold. Sister Xiao didn't say any more. Okay, it's getting late, go to bed early if you have nothing to do, I will take care of these things. After speaking, she was silent for a while, seeing that Zhou Jianchen had no objection, and took a deep breath. Then hung up the phone again. It didn't look like she was before. Sister Xiao knew about Zhou Jianchen. She didn't understand why Zhou Jianchen was so abnormal when she was at the airport during the day. She asked a Zhao Axian to no avail. Later, when she saw Yang Yin came out, she understood everything. It's just that she didn't call immediately, because it didn't help how many calls she made before she knew the matter was still clear. She took Zhou Jianchen for so many years, how she didn't know those things about him. Liang Yin was different to him. For so many years, he has never liked people, has never been superior and indispensable, but before that year, before multimedia, he announced his liking for Liang Yin without considering the consequences. Then, it was rejected. She did a good job in the public relations that year, and all the impact was minimal. Zhou Jianchen still looked like a bohemian in front of others, but privately, no one knew how long he was depressed. He hasn't mentioned the name Liang Yin again for these years, but she knows that Liang Yin is always a place in his heart that cannot be touched. Just like this time at the airport, although many years have passed, Zhou Jianchen is still messed up for her. She believed that they really met by chance and then separated in a hurry, otherwise his mood wouldn't be so bad. Therefore, she could scold her about Su Lily, but it was Liang Yin, she could only be careful. She is calling now, just to confirm his attitude. Sister Xiao started to get busy. Zhou Jianchen sat on the sofa, but she fell silent. Indeed, now is not the time when he posts Weibo, and he does not need to take action personally. These things are all fictitious, and an understatement of clarification in the morning will be enough. Sister Xiao is familiar with everything, everything can be done very well. It's just that I'm still upset. 5 years ago, it was announced in public that hate is not known to everyone, but now it is trying to put aside the big things and the small things. The phone screen lights up, and it still stays on the photo of him looking at her. He looks at it, a little lost. In fact, he hadn't seen this photo for many times. Rong Xin used to make fun of him once, but later learned that Liang Yin was married to a wealthy family and never mentioned it again, and he also deleted this photo from the album. Photo. In the photo, his eyes are indeed gentle, but in his eyes, Liang Yin, who is focused on the stage, is moving enough. The cord in his heart was plucked again. Zhou Jianchen didn't want to look at it anymore, turned off the phone and threw it away, and got up again. However, the matter did not end there. At 5:30 in the morning, Su Lily, who had disappeared for 3 days, finally appeared again. She posted a Weibo with only 2 words, "Loved." 1 hour later, this Weibo was followed by people. 2 hours later, it was on the hot search. Someone had previously suspected that if Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yinghao were really dating, then why would Su Lily suddenly send out such a Weibo? Some people even speculate that Su Lily may have really dated Zhou Jianchen, but it has not been made public. The reason why she suddenly exposed is because she found that Zhou Jianchen went abroad to look for Liang Ying after she was angry. After all, Su Lili disappeared after posting her Weibo. This kind of remarks did not receive attention at the time. After all, it was too ridiculous, and it was even attacked by fans at one time, but now Su Lili's Weibo came out, but it seemed to be confirmed. Zhou Jianchen and Su Lili have been dating, so Su Lili will have a photo of the two holding hands. Zhou Jianchen went abroad to look for Liang Yin, so Su Lili became angry and blogged. Zhou Jianchen and Liang Yin were inadvertently photographed at the same airport and caused a heated discussion, so Su Lili would be sad to send another love to show his love. So the question is, when did Liang Yinghao and Zhou Jianchen get together? Is there really a third party to intervene? If Su Lili had broken up with Zhou Jianchen long ago, there shouldn't be such a big disturbance now. Suddenly, Zhou Jianchen's love triangle and Liang Yin stepped in were pushed to the forefront. Zhou Jianchen was awakened by A Zhao, looking at the assistant standing at the door. His brows were furrowed and his face was not very good looking. What's the matter? He was very angry about getting up, not to mention that he didn't fall asleep until 4 in the morning. At this time, the hair was in a mess, and the nightgown was loosened and draped in a mess. A Zhao looked a little nervous. "Brother Chen, something happened." Su Lili posted another Weibo, and it's all spreading online now. As he said, he passed the mobile phone in his hand. The screen of Su Lili's Weibo was displayed on the phone. Zhou Jianchen's expression suddenly changed when he saw it. Although Su Lili only uttered 2 words, he didn't know what impact this would have. Sure enough, I opened the comments below to see. Zhou Jian confirms that I have been with Su Lili is very popular. Looking down, there are even Liang Yin third-party intervening remarks. She doesn't want to live anymore. There were hot searches before, and when Sister Xiao knew about it, she hurriedly got people to remove her. She also kept people contacting Su Lili, but Su Lili disappeared after posting her Weibo. The phone was turned off and she Weibo the blog message has been unread. Zhou Jianchen had already walked downstairs with a sullen expression, and A Zhao continued following along. "Sister Xiao has been calling you since she knew about it, but you can't get through, so I have to come here." Although Zhou Jianchen let him go yesterday 2 days off, but as an assistant, he is naturally on call. Zhou Jianchen had already picked up the mobile phone that was thrown on the sofa last night, and when he saw it, there were countless calls. WeChat is almost in a state of explosion. He has a lot of friends in the entertainment circle. Whenever he has any news, many people come to ask. Dialed Sister Xiao's number, and it was quickly connected. "The statement hasn't come out yet?" Zhou Jianchen asked directly. "Not yet." Sister Xiao was obviously busy, and she answered what she explained to others. The time she prepared to issue the statement last night was 8 o'clock in the morning, so that it was not too early, not to make people feel urgent, and not too late. At the beginning of the day, all negative effects could be suppressed. "No need to post, I'll do it myself." Zhou Jianchen finished speaking and hung up the phone directly. After checking the time, he turned his head and asked Xiang, who was standing aside, "Is there a press conference for Qingchengju this morning, and what time?" A Zhao thought for a while, and immediately replied, 9 o'clock. "Get me clothes and go to the press conference site." Zhou Jianchen said, and went straight to the bathroom. "Qingchengju, an animation film by Zhou Jianchen as a producer and co-producer. He hasn't been filming for a while, but he didn't take the book less and invested in a few movies. The one that hit last year was that Qing Chengju was also one of them, but there was no publicity, so it was unknown. It was 8 o'clock when Liang Yin received Ruana's call. She was shopping in the supermarket. Life has to go on, 3 meals a day, 4 seasons clothes, there is no exemption. Maybe it was too early, maybe Liang Yin's disguise was very good. Although some people would look at her more, no one recognized her. In fact, she wears very simple, jeans, flat shoes, long khaki windbreaker, usually out of shape, the only thing that can be used as a cover is the mask on the face. It's just that as the weather has affected more and more people wearing masks, it is not surprising that she looks like this. Liang Yin always has this ability. Even if he is eye-catching on the screen, he returns to life, he can always return to normal, quiet and unnoticed. Hey, Ruana! She took off her mask and said in a low voice. Ruana's voice was a little anxious. Have you seen Union Weibo? I am so angry. How can these people write so much? Liang Yin noticed something and went to the corner. Ruana crackled all over what happened last night. Last night, she didn't finish her work until 1 o'clock in the morning. When she returned to the hotel, she fell asleep, but when she woke up in the morning and read Weibo, she became angry. They actually said that you got involved in Zhou Jianchen and Su Lily's relationship, saying that you were a third party involved. My God, would you get involved? How can you get involved in other people's relationships if you like Zhong Mingzhen so much? How mad at me, how can they do it? Talking nonsense with just one photo. Liang Yin had already clicked on Weibo, and when he saw it, he was speechless. She thought it was over, but she didn't expect it to develop into this way. But soon, she discovered the anomaly again. Rona, did you reply? Said that her third party had participated in the most popular Weibo. Ruana Zhen went off the scene and replied fart. At first, people thought it was a high imitation number, but after realizing that it was the real one, it suddenly boiled. Yuan Ruana is also a traffic level figure in the entertainment industry. Ruana has always been gentle and has excellent reviews. And for so many years, they have been communicating privately without being exposed, but this time they resolutely spoke out, obviously regardless. How Liang Yin didn't know her temperament and couldn't help but sighed. Actually, you don't need to speak for me. If you come out now, it will only cause you a lot of trouble. I'm so angry. This is plainly pouring dirty water on people. Union, you are too low-key, don't say anything. I know you will definitely not come out to explain, so I can't help but reply. I just can't stand you being slandered like this. They know it and they know it, we are good friends, what's wrong with us? We are too lazy to promote it and nothing is shameful. Don't think you can be slandered casually if you are not in the entertainment industry. Ruana didn't care at all, but suddenly she sighed again. It's good if Zhong Mingzhen could stand up and make it public. Let them know exactly what's going on. For so many years, none of you have said anything about it, and you will be caught in vain. Those villains slandered me. Last time, they were. Those people said that you were mad, which really maddened me. Ruana was still talking, but Liang Yin's heart froze. Turning to see something, he interrupted, Rona, I have something to do with me, so I won't talk about it for now. A couple came over with a cart and stopped by her side. Ruana just asked what she was busy with. Although she was unwilling, she hung up the phone obediently. Liang Yin put on his phone and put on a mask, and continued to select things. The girl from the couple nearby looked at her and seemed familiar, but in the end she turned her head and talked to her boyfriend about the dishes to be made at noon today. If you are really a big star, how can you come out to buy groceries in person? Liang Yin took 2 boxes of beef and put them in the cart before turning and walking away. He just turned around, but the whole person was a little silent. Let Zhong Mingzhen come out and make it public, but now how can he come out and make it public? And what can she say to the outside world? Suddenly, there was a vibrating sound from the phone again, and when she picked it up, Ruana sent another WeChat message. Look at the sound, Zhou Jianchen came out to explain. Above is a link to news. Click to open it. Zhou Jianchen appeared at the press conference of Qing Chengju and responded to the rumors of the love triangle for the first time. After checking out the cash register, he pushed outside into a coffee shop, sat down and ordered a cup of coffee, plugged in the earphones and turned on the video. Zhou Jianchen's appearance appeared. In the video, Zhou Jianchen faced many reporters and media, dressed in a straight suit, smiled and looked radiant. The reporter asked, Mr. Zhou, what do you think of the rumors on the internet about the love triangle between you, actress Liang Yin, and popular artist Su Lily? Zhou Jianchen smiled and replied, I heard about this thing in the morning, and I have to admire everyone's imagination. The reporter said, you mean these things are fake, don't you? Zhou Jianchen replied, I did return home on the same flight as Liang Yin, but it was definitely not what everyone thought. I believe everyone knows that Liang Yinghao has always been an actress that I admire very much. I made a public statement many years ago. So I was pleasantly surprised to meet me on the plane this time. Like everyone, I haven't seen Liang Yinghao for many years. He said with a smile. As for Su Lily, she is just an artist in my company. Although she has collaborated with me, I am not familiar with her. I don't know how she posts those Weibos, but what I want to say is, the shooting I caught a cold on the photo that day. I was tired from playing golf with a friend and then I sat in a chair and fell asleep. I don't know how it was photographed. Actually, I am the boss of Starlight, and I should be concerned about the mental state of the employees. I was negligent. After speaking, he smiled again. There was a moment of silence on the scene as soon as this was said. But it was quickly broken, so Su Lily was there that day. Zhou Jianchen replied, yes, the golf course is also an open place after all. Another reporter asked, Mr. Zhou, you and Liang Yinghao went back to China on the same plane. Have you ever had a conversation along the way? Do you know where Liang Yinghao has gone for so many years? Is she really as rumored? Disfigured in the car accident? Is she really ready to come back this time when she returns to China? Zhou Jianchen smiled, even though Liang Yinghao and I were on the same plane, they were not seated together and the journey was too exhausting. So I only greeted a few shortly before rest. I don't know that Liang Yinghao has gone these years yet, but what I can answer is that your Liang Yinghao is still beautiful as a flower. Then, I also hope that, like you, Liang Yinghao will come back, and then, there will be another opportunity to cooperate. Zhou Jianchen said, and looked away again. Gagan Chen, was it true that I didn't arrange to take a taxi back that day? Zhou Jianchen looked at the reporter again, yes, I came back suddenly. There may have been some mistakes, and things were not arranged, so I just took a taxi and went back. As for why I came back suddenly, I didn't want to catch up with today's Qing Cheng. Is the press conference of the formula? He said and laughed again. Then he said, okay, it's getting late, and the press conference is about to start. I won't be overwhelming. I will let everything go. Please pay more attention to the movie Qing Chengju. I can ask everyone guarantees that this is definitely a movie you can't miss. The video ends here. Zhou Jianchen was smiling, polite and decent from beginning to end. Liang Yin looked at him and felt strange. She didn't know enough about Zhou Jianchen, but she always felt that he shouldn't be like this. And, maybe everyone believed everything he said, but she knew it wasn't really the case. He was not surprised when he met on the plane, and then he was just indifferent, so why did he say that? Back to WeChat, Ruana's message was sent over again. I didn't expect Zhou Jianchen to come out to clarify in person. I thought it was his agent who came forward again. How long has he not shown up at public events? But that's fine. Once he clarifies, all your grievances will be lost. It can be washed away. I am so suffocated to see it. If you are busy, you don't have to go back to me. I'm going to work too. Do you love you? Liang Yin looked at the words above. Suddenly there was a hint of clarity in his heart. Zhou Jianchen did not show up for a long time, but this time he came out in person. It was clear that things were not like this, but he said something like this. She realized that Zhou Jianchen might have come forward to clarify it for her. Zhou Jianchen openly falsified. In fact, it is all clearing the suspicion for her. Turning on Weibo, Zhou Jianchen's response was instantly searched. At the same time, Zhou Jianchen appeared at the Qingchengju press conference. Zhou Jianchen behind the scenes. Zhou Jianchen bluntly said Su Lily was mentally ill. Zhou Jianchen denies love triangle and other popular topics. The previous hot search for Yuan Ruan responded to Liang Yin's intervention was also brushed down. And her name will not be mentioned again. Zhou Jianchen finally updated Weibo again. The test is good, don't miss it. Number below are various movie posters. It took less than 10 minutes to post, and the comments and likes exceeded 100,000. Support Brother Chen. Please praise me if you scold Su Lily. Why is my male so handsome in a black suit? My Chen brother finally got a better blog. Not only did my brother Chen finally get a better blog, he finally appeared in front of the public again. It's been a long time since he participated in the event. The microblog is full of excitement. Liang Yin has read it one by one, but still doesn't know what his reason is. The coffee was served, along with a piece of cake. She put down the phone and didn't look at it anymore. She hasn't eaten for a while, and she hasn't slept well these days. But when things reached the mouth, there was no appetite at all. The coffee was still hot. She held it in her hand as if she was warming it. Outside the window are all kinds of pedestrians, each in a hurry and busy. But they are all familiar scenery. Once, she often sat here. After drinking coffee, just leave. She walked back all the way after the apartment was 20 minutes away. The phone shook again suddenly, and when I saw it, Zhou Jianchen sent a text message. He said, "I'm sorry, this time I hurt you." She watched for a long time, not knowing his tone. After thinking about it, she just replied, "It's okay." Zhou Jianchen did not return. He could ignore the rumored scandal about him and her last night, and now that she is affected like this, he can no longer ignore it. After all, she was really affected. It's just that it's enough to say sorry to her. At that time, he was already sitting in the car, and the press conference of Qingchengju came to an end, and he was finally able to leave. He arrived at the scene an hour earlier, and then he had done enough for the audience. All the words and laughter Yan Yan had just disappeared. Now all that is left is a dull silence, Zhou Jianchen's strange silence. He did solve all the problems perfectly, but he and Liang Yin were completely separated. She was just an actress he admired, just like many years ago, except for nothing else. Liang Yin thought, but sent another message, "Actually, you don't need to explain it yourself, I'm fine." She really didn't worry about such rumors, because she really had nothing to influence. Zhou Jianchen looked at the text message she sent again, but fell silent. He looked at the phone, pressed and pressed. After a long time, he finally sent it out. "It's okay." He thought he was doing it concealed enough, but she still saw it. But this time, Liang Yin did not return. At the entrance of Jiawen apartment, Liang Yin raised his head after sending a text message, and then stopped briefly. At the door, a car stopped and the window dropped, revealing Zhong Mingjin's face. At the same time, Zhou Jianchen also received news that Su Lily disappeared for a few days and finally appeared. The author has something to say. "Good morning, Mr. Zhong has finally come out this morning. I was very sad. I woke up at 5:30 and brushed the background. There were some collections and new comments. When I wanted to see if the chapters in the manuscript box needed to be revised, I found out last night. The mobile phone codewords until 11 half of the saved manuscripts are actually gone. So now the second half is recoded in the morning. My heart is so tired. I ask for flowers. I want to collect. I want to touch. QAQ. Liang Yin looked at the people in the car and couldn't react. Zhong Mingzhen never responded to her. She didn't expect him to appear here suddenly. However, it is always here to end all this. Mrs. The driver had come down and opened the door. Liang Yin didn't go over, just took off his mask, holding the shopping bag in his hand, and said, I will put my things back first. She just bought some steaks and quick frozen food, and it can't be kept for long. She didn't mean to invite Zhong Mingzhen to go up there. She had already made a decision in her heart, and she didn't want to have too much involvement. This apartment is something she is too private. Get in the car, let you in first. Zhong Mingzhen opened his mouth, his voice was light, but the expression in his eyes looking at Liang Yin was indistinguishable from sadness and joy. His facial features are very beautiful, with well-defined contours, and his eyes are extraordinarily deep. He was never a person who put his emotions on his face. He was restrained and deep when he was young, so that no one could see his emotions. Later, as time passed, he was in charge of the Zhong group, and he was even more invisible. Liang Yin avoided his sight, and did not insist there is a way to go in, and this is not a place to talk. She thought, Zhong Mingzhen might not want to waste too much time. Sitting in the car, her heart was bright. She originally thought Zhong Mingzhen might not know why she raised the divorce, but now it seems that he should know. The car drove into the basement and quickly stopped. I'll come as soon as I go. Liang Yin bowed his head and said, then took his things and walked out of the car. Yet. Zhong Mingzhen answered, without meaning to follow. He is a well-measured person and always respects people. Liang Yin didn't want him to have a panoramic view. The driver closed the door and did not go in immediately. He just stood aside, and only Zhong Mingzhen was left in the car. He seemed to rub his temples, and soon returned to normal. In the past 2 days, he flew from Europe to North America, and then returned from North America, without stopping for a moment. Liang Yin quickly walked down, still in that attire, but with his hair tied up, just like the girl next door usually. The driver had opened the door for her. Liang Yin got on the car. Zhong Mingzhen turned his eyes and said, go and have a meal first. Liang Yin's hair was and his entire face was exposed, and the weight loss in the past few days has become more obvious. It was almost noon at this time. No need. Liang Yin faintly refused. She didn't want to eat, and she didn't know if she could still eat. Now, she just wants to end all this soon. Zhong Mingzhen did not reluctantly. The driver realized that they had something to talk about, so he said, Ms. Zhong, I will go down first. When Zhong Mingzhen did not speak, he acquiesced. Soon only Liang Yin and Zhong Mingzhen were left in the car, neither of them spoke, and the air was terribly quiet. Liang Yin remembered that at that time, Zhong Mingzhen seemed to have cooked a meal for her. Back then, it was summer vacation, and she was staying at Zhong's house. That day the old lady went out, and the cook asked for leave because of something, so she and Zhong Mingzhen were left at home. Zhong Mingzhen had been reading upstairs, and at noon, she was going to make something for him. But when she was busy, Zhong Mingzhen walked down at some point, and then watched her blunt operation, and took the knife in her hand. I'll do it. She told him that the cook was going out, and he immediately understood her intentions. She never knows how to cook, it was her first time cooking. Zhong Mingzhen was very skilled, and easily prepared lunch for the two of them. Later, she learned that Zhong Mingzhen had gone to university and lived outside, and learned to cook when he was alone. After a good lunch, he reminded her, if you can't cook, you can order food in the future and they will deliver it. Then she knew that if he was at home alone that day, maybe he wouldn't cook at all. He just saw that she was busy and took over her unfinished work. In Zhong's family, he is the master. In terms of age, he lives long, and when no one is at home, he should take care of everything about her. At that time, there was still some warmth on his body, which made people feel that it was not so inaccessible. But that's only the case. That was the first and last time she saw Zhong Mingzhen cooking. After a long time, Liang Yin finally spoke, "Let's get a divorce. 13 years of feelings are enough." Zhong Mingzhen has not explained, perhaps the explanation is irrelevant. He and Qiao Shan should get back together, and then they walked together again, and she was just the person who suddenly intervened on the way. Zhong Mingzhen didn't answer, but after a long time, he asked, "Have you thought about it?" His voice was very soft, but he asked in Liang Yin's heart all the way. How could she marry Zhong Mingzhen at that time? At that time, Zhong Mingzhen waited at the marriage registry office for a day, but Qiao Shan did not come, so he assumed that nothing happened. He returned home, continued to go to get off work, communicate and socialize, and continue to be his successor to the Zhong group. It's just that at night, he always drinks alone, unconscious. He has always been a self-sufficient person, always meticulous, as if he would never make a mistake. But at that time, he began to sink. He really likes Qiao Shan, like no one can imagine. Liang Yin heard about it from his friends. She would often be at Zhong's family, and she would often meet those friends of Zhong Mingzhen. She is younger than them. She is quiet and well-behaved. She is easy to be shy. Although she has not fully grown up, she is conceivable and beautiful, so she is not evasive when talking. Liang Yin went to Zhong's house when he knew it, and it happened that Mrs. Zhong passed her birthday the next day. That night she hadn't fallen asleep for a long time, because Zhong Mingzhen never came back. He didn't have the habit of staying away at night, but it was already very late at that time. Later, she finally heard the movement, opened the door and saw that Zhong Mingzhen was walking up the escalator. He apparently drank too much, his face didn't show up, but he staggered as he walked up the stairs. She stepped forward to support him, and he glanced at her without speaking. But her heart grabbed at once, his eyes were so peaceful, but so sad. This is what he has never seen before. She helped him into the room and gave him a towel to wipe his face. She said, "You don't feel sad, there are still many people like you." The clock Mingzhen was sitting on the carpet leaning against the wall. Hearing her talking, he raised his head and asked with a chuckle, "Do many people like me? How about you, do you like it?" Her hand paused, and quickly, but nodded her head heavily, "Yet." Then, Zhong Mingzhen glanced at her, then pulled her over and kissed her. Early the next morning, she left Zhong Mingzhen's room and returned to her room. She washed herself, changed her clothes, and pretended that nothing happened. She thought Zhong Mingzhen might not remember what happened last night, and he always called the name Zhozan. At that time, she was 21 years old and never thought of holding him accountable. She didn't reject him completely, because she liked him for so many years. But when Zhong Mingzhen woke up, he still remembered everything that happened last night. The traces on the bed were too obvious. He was already sober at that time, so when she went out later, he stopped her from going. "Did he say it was you last night?" She did not speak. He said, "I will be responsible for you." At the beginning, she married him because of an accident. And now, she had already thought about ending the accident. "Well, I think about it." Liang Yin nodded and said. Zhong Mingzhen looked at her for a while, turned his head, and finally spoke, "I will let Lawyer Chen draw up the divorce agreement." But she agreed to her divorce request. Liang Yin's heart seemed to have finally fallen. "Then it's okay, I'll leave first," she said, "you will contact me when you need to sign." "Yet," Zhong Mingzhen replied. When Liang Yin listened, he pushed the car door and walked down. Liang Yin quickly disappeared into the elevator. Zhong Mingzhen sat in the car, but did not leave for a long time. He suddenly remembered how he looked when he saw Yang Yin for the first time, when she was still very young, wearing a skirt sitting on the sofa, and stood up when she saw him coming in, restrained and helpless, beautiful without knowing it. She should have been only 15 years old at that time, but a middle school student. She is the little sister of the Zhong family. Everyone likes her. At that time, they always joked secretly, let's marry her when Yunyan grows up. He never spoke at that time, but he didn't expect that in the end he married her. But this marriage was hasty after all. When he slept with her, he wanted to take responsibility. He felt that he was the best choice to marry her, so he never asked her opinion. She is always too quiet, not quarreling or arguing, so that people will ignore it. However, it was unfair to her after all. He has never loved her. He married her for responsibility, but in his eyes, his affection for her is always greater than love. And these years, perhaps she has long been tired of it. Zhong Mingzhen remembered the appearance of Liang Yin just now. She was thin, repulsive, but also calm. It's like being prepared. He could see that she really wanted a divorce. So all those words that had been prepared to be spoken were swallowed. He should have known long ago that she was not a person who spoke easily. He saw the photo Jiao Shan sent her, but it wasn't like that at all. Jiao Shan found him and wanted to get back together, but he refused. He really loved her once, but time passed and everything was let go. He has always been a sane person. He was fascinated for a while, and he was sober when he jumped out. But Jiao Shan has changed. She put something in his wine and slept next to her when he woke up. She tried all means to prove her charm, but was not reconciled. He has never seen her again in these years, but he has been listening to her news. Later, she had a few more romances, but all of them failed. She seemed to be getting more and more down and down. Then she wanted to find her again, as if someone who had played enough finally wanted to go home. She knew that he had loved him so much, and she thought he would still love him so much now. She deliberately took photos like that and sent them to Liang Yin, and then hung up and deleted them all when she called and sent text messages. At that time he was still asleep, completely unaware of it. But she was disappointed after all. He was no longer the same him. Seeing her lying naked next to him, he just put on his clothes and walked away. People who once liked so much have become unsightly after all. But his behavior hurt her, she wouldn't let him go, hysterical, and when he wanted to call back, she grabbed his phone and threw it out the window. Later, he finally left, but the recovered mobile phone was smashed. It was already afternoon when the deleted data was retrieved when the new machine was replaced. As soon as he opened it, Liang Yin's text message came over. She said, Zhong Mingzhen, let's get a divorce. Later, he hurried back to the manor and quickly transferred back to the country without stopping. The servant of the manor said that the old Victor was dead and his wife cried very sadly. For so many years, he had never seen her cry. Jiao Shan sent her a photo, she just told him, Mingzhen, Victor is about to die. He didn't reply, and then Victor died, and she told him, Zhong Mingzhen, let's get a divorce. He felt her pain, but in the end, he also felt her firmness. Then, all the words are not worth mentioning. She made up her mind, and he could only respect her decision. Zhong Mingzhen's eyes were confused for a moment, but he quickly recovered his calmness. He dialed the driver's phone, and then faintly spoke, let's go. The author has something to say. Good evening. I have written every word in this chapter at least 3 times or more. From yesterday morning to the present, please stay alone, Mr. Zhong. I am exhausted to write it. Damn it, then tomorrow, if you want to take your baby out for outdoor activities, it may be late. You can do it later. If you can't do it the day after tomorrow. QAQ.